Okay.
Hello, everybody! Ground back here, and wait. When was season 3? Wasn't this like a while ago? I guess we're finally doing the viability ranking. I'm with the council today. With me, I have Zach and Theus as usual. So Tina, and we don't have Cyber DJ. So instead, I just found this guy. His name is Plausible. You might have heard of him. He was a YouTuber. This is when you guys are
It's
supposed to say
silent.
hi.
Oh.
I
Oh,
mean, yeah, but silence is better.
Yes, hello everybody! Way! We're
Hello,
back.
everyone. We're back for season 3. When season 4 is on
Hello.
the cusp of existing.
That's true, yeah. Like season 4 is like one of those like rush childs you didn't ask for, but we gotta handle season 3. Oh,
Hello.
hi, Pause. I appreciate you. I don't appreciate Cyber DJ. He's not here because he hates.
Yeah, I don't
It's true.
appreciate you, Brown back. It's only one-sided.
All right,
The
so
drawback in a parasocial relationship?
No,
absolutely
I'm
not.
just kidding. I appreciate Groundback for this platform. All of you are amazing, and I think that Groundback's audience is fantastic. Just shout out to all the homies.
I disagree with that last part, but everything else is true. All right, so a lot of stuff has happened, and even though Cyber DJ couldn't be with us, did make his own tier list, which we'll look at this just as like have a reminder about what's here in the format. So we had like the Tapus, Palisand, Gastrodon. I don't know how, but I somehow forgot Amon Raichu was here. I probably should have put down the thumbnail instead of an OX, but oh well. In season 3, it was pretty interesting, especially when it came to the actual tournament. Compared to season 2, a lot of the people who made it to the finals then didn't do as well now. And most of the people who only made it like halfway in the 2 tournament ended up making it to the finals. Such as me and Sotina. One of us was a little bit
Hi,
better.
the 2 finalists. Yes, one of us was a little bit better. We won't tell who because, there is a video of that happening.
Normally, I would
We
say
don't,
you
we
should
don't need to.
watch it, but I think instead it's just better if you just leave it up to your interpretation, dear viewer. Who do you think is better between me and Sotina? There's a 0% chance you have bias because I'm the one that talks in the microphone more.
Indeed, no biases at all.
All
That
right,
doesn't exist.
so where do we even start?
I think we need to start with the most important things, which is the new guys, and especially the one most important new guy, which got his own video on top of the presentation.
I didn't make a video at
The
all
one
though.
that got. You did make a video about his ban, so I think we should put it first.
Oh, you mean the
Ah,
other
yes,
one? Yeah, Tapu
Moltres.
Yes.
Koko.
Yeah, Moltres. Moltres. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, okay, that
Mo-
makes way more sense. He is the fundamental after all.
Mm-hmm. But,
True.
but, but yes, the Tapu Koko ban, the summer school send off, if you will.
I was surprised.
Yeah, he was too. Yeah, you go ahead. You go first.
Okay, the Tapu Koko band really surprised me because I knew it was really good, but this is one of those classic cases where you guys were able to like figure something out long before I did. When I made the video on what if Tapu Koko was in Gen 1 OU, it didn't really occur to me that just with Hyper Beam and Nature's Madness, he can pretty much revenge kill everything. I was just so focused on Reflect getting rid of his one weakness to ground, I figured that alone would be good. Not to mention I didn't see just how valuable agility instead of Thermal Wave would be. But then I just saw more people being like, oh my god, this is broken. It just handles everything. Even though right outside the format, Tapu Koko wanted to kill it, 2 Majors Madness into Hyper Beam does kill it. And then I started playing with it myself and had a lot of fun with it in Zapdos and Raichu. But also, it works well with other electric types. So that's not a good sign for a format where normally Gen 1's all about the ground types dominating the electric types. But that wasn't the case here. And because of that, the format just kind of went out of control.
Yeah, so it didn't come as a surprise to a few of us. We kind of went into this understanding that Tapu Koko was going to be really strong, but
Yeah.
something that you have been mentioning in your videos, which is good, is that your videos are 1v1 full HP standoffs, whereas when you take it into context, Tapu Koko is like Tauros on steroids, and you just send it in the last Pokemon in the team, and everything's at 30%, and Tapu Koko runs wild, and you can't stop it, which is
Yeah,
which
the
was
thing that breaks Tapu Koko is mainly its speed and good offense combined, because like it has good defensive stat as well. Like that's not to be forgotten. The defensive stats are pretty decent when it comes to Gen 1 standard, but it's also just 140 base speed, which means it beats speed types Jolteon. And then after that, you kind of cascade because it becomes the best revenge killer because it can kill everything except one Pokemon in the format, and that meant and the development that happened because there was no other way to endure Tapu Koko was to have that one Pokemon on every team. And yeah, it became very stale.
And that one Pokemon Palossand, it was really good, but it wasn't actually enough to really stop Koko. And that's because I don't know if it's because we have like good grass types, but it ended up being a big stall fest. But one where I felt like could have probably worked around it either way. And even if you couldn't, you were just making a giant you were just stalling your opponent over and over again. So it wasn't fun at all.
no, at least without Koko in, the Pokemon like Palossand and Gastrodon, they were able to stay in, and you'd have more options to take them on because you didn't have to fill it up with Tapu Koko. So, without Koko around, even with Rhydon in the format, switching Rhydon into Nature's Madness and it just being deleted 50% of its HP was it, it was unreasonable at the end of the day. So Koko was removed, and it did become Amnesia the season, but it was interesting trying to work around the Amnesia setters.
I agree. Like, so like we had a few different amnesia setters. They didn't really feel like Slowbro. Normally, Slowbro's really annoying when it's at and I think it might just be because, especially for like Gastrodon's case, it's not really statusing you. It's trying to set up for a sweep, but it's not. You're not gonna be annoyed. It's not like you're trying to, tackle like a Gastrodon. It's paralyzing you. You're losing turns, and
Yeah, exactly. That's the interesting part with the Amnesia setup, is that they did not have Thunder Wave, but they did have the T-Wave immunity, which was the annoying part.
Mm-hmm.
And
but yeah.
What was that, Zach?
Oh no, sorry, the delay's all sort of weird. The T-Wave immunity, that made everything a lot more consistent. So you didn't have these turns that you would with Slowbro, where you just get paralyzed, and then the opponent gets paralyzed, and then you're paralyzed again, and then they recover, and then you go to sleep, and then it's 8 turns of nothing happening. Whereas with Palossand and Gastrodon, because there's no paralysis in play, turns are allowed to do what they want to do, and it was an easier flow to the battle. It's the way I think about it.
And also all 4 Amnesia users were different, right? If I remember properly. All of them are unique.
Yeah. But also, just the fact that they have recovery in the first place. Store Up and Recover are huge by Allison and Gastrodon rose up as the Amnesia ground types, while Rhydon and Slowbro ended up falling off completely. It is a really... You really underestimate just how good an Amnesia setter with Recover is until you see a big... Like a really, really big slug. It's like in front of you, and it just one-shot your bull by spraying some water on it. It's a weird analogy, but one that was surprisingly literal during season 3.
It was pretty literal. I guess we can move on to actually tiering stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think we had the overview. Does Plus want to add anything on the overview of this season, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. He was the one that made the entire spreadsheet on the Volbeat matchups. Plus, I'm dedicating the entire viability of Volbeat to only you.
Sure, that sounds like a good idea. I was gonna say actually that these all sound like very good thoughts. Where it's like, I think we've summed it up rather well. Where Tapu Koko got quick ban for justifiable reasons. The Amnesiac duo of our ground types kind of dominated in a way I wasn't anticipating, but that was to the chagrin of a lot of players in the season. But there were also some other fun choices too, like Alolan Raichu. Same thing with like Tapu Bulu, who came out of like the woodwork surprisingly, pun not intended, to to like surprising like do rather well when people were calling it Tapu Poo Poo and whatnot. So
Yes, Tapu Poo Poo.
yeah, I think these are all things that could be discussed rather and probably in more detail with each individual Pokemon when we start tiering. But it was a mixed season, but I think that it had some nice strong suits and it had some weaker aspects too.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with the Tapu Pupu thing. It was because of Tapu Koko existence. You couldn't have 2 months that couldn't break Palosand. That was just not feasible. Then when only Tapu Bulu is the only Pokemon that can't really break past Palosand, it becomes okay, and it becomes even good because then you can have more, Palosand becomes more rare in general. It's not on every team, mostly. And it's also that Palosand becomes easier to break when there is no Tapu Koko around because you have more slots in your team, which can do more stuff because there is not Tapu Koko restricting the entire format.
I love this tier with some. I just love how at the bottom, it's just Volbeat with Raichu, Tentacruel, Hypno. Bro thinks he's on the team.
And I do not agree. I know Cyber has only put Hypno down there because he hates the fact that I use Hypno all the time.
Yeah,
Because it is. I'm going to defend Hypno. Right, I'm going out of the bat now. I'm going to do the Hypno show. It is a reasonably good lead. It is bulkier than Alakazam, so you can save your Alakazam for later in the fight. It's dual status. You can paralyze and put to sleep in the lead slot. It doesn't care about paralysis, so Thunder Wave's in the lead slot. It doesn't matter. You got Psychic as stab. It's just an all-round reasonably good lead, and that's it. That's all I got to say about that. Cyber, I thank you for bringing Hypno into everybody's hearts. And now he's screaming.
Hypno, but he now just made it a topic in the video. But also, thank God.
Yep.
Because, just what I was hoping would beat Palsand. Meditate, Headbutt, Hypno.
so
I've
true.
seen all sorts of weird things in this format, I will say.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff, especially in Loser's Bracket where Zack Confused and Plausible were.
Oh yeah, I have no
Ooh,
idea what
yeah,
you guys were
we'll
talking
save that
about.
for a little.
Like, maybe I should have put Magmar in the tier list.
Yeah, we'll save that for a little bit later on. But that was a lot of fun. That was.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I
Yes.
apologize though. Like maybe next time I will put Magmar and especially Firo here. Firo should be here just because of how good its backsprite is alone. But yeah.
Exactly. People's backsprite is big.
You
Alright.
missed Porygon.
Oh, poor. You know what?
Okay,
Maybe I
you
should put Porygon here, but I'm pretty sure. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but like even here, like in Cyber's like tier list, Snorlax ain't even big 3 anymore. So like,
I'm gonna go on with that because I think that's wrong, personally.
actually, Snorlax is here at the very bottom. I'm not sure why he's here at the end, but like, actually, let's just go over him first, because like, why not?
wouldn't it be appropriate to just put Tapu Koko in the summer school real quick because that one doesn't have any discussion?
Oh yeah, the
Yeah, we already
yeah,
discussed
yeah.
it, so we should just put it in the Bante for the summer school.
Yes, Tapu
Because
Koko
he
in
is not
summer
fun.
school. I'm not sure what class he flunked. Quite possibly all of them, but he he he,
Exactly.
he was kind of naughty, but he's gonna get better. Why is there two tier lists here? Why is there
He's the-
the big three then three?
Yes,
Damn.
big three.
I am just throwing.
Okay, so
The who made that tier list?
yeah, we can do Snorlax now.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
Snorlax. Snorlax is
Okay.
weird. Snorlax ends up being weird every single generation jumble. Because even though most people for regular RBY like definitively the second best Pokemon, and I guess now him and Tauros are the only ones in here. Every single time we do a generation jumble, I feel like Snorlax is always the first one of the big three that people cut out. Which is weird. I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah,
It's still a really solid
I've
Pokemon.
noticed that as well. Is the first one to get thrown to the wayside, despite how fat it is. It is launched all the way out of the equation. Nobody wants to use it, and then someone inevitably halfway through the winners bracket, they start using Snorlax, and people go, "Oh yes, he's actually really good."
Yeah, okay, so there is a reason for that, by the way, is that Snorlax tends to get bullshit the most out of every Pokemon. It's because it's the main target of the bullshit. I've had my Snorlax get frozen so many times over the course of the 2 generation jumble I was a part of, and Snorlax tends to be the one that gets bullshitted. It doesn't do well sometimes, and sometimes it has underwhelming performance, especially if you go with like some sets. Some sets tends to do worse than others, especially Boomlax, which is a great set, by the way. Hi Cyber, if you're watching this, Boomlax is great. But I think it's also that the thing people tend to forget that Snorlax is supposed to be the most customizable Pokemon of Generation Jumble and Gen 1. Because, like, most people do sample sets, right? I think that's how most people go about building teams, that they pick their Pokemon and they go with the sample set they think will do good. Sometimes they go more creatively about it, sometimes not. I tend to do a sample set sometimes I do other stuff. It depends, but Snorlax doesn't like using sample set. It needs to be customized in order to work better.
I think he worded it
Yeah,
perfectly.
I'd agree.
Bad.
Yeah, it's the good thing about Snorlax. Well, I was going to say the good thing. It is that Metagross theorem that we had from season 1, because you're throwing it in the face of so many attacks because of its bulk, and because it's staying on the field so much because of its bulk. It gets bullshit a lot. It does. It gets frozen. It gets crit. It gets put to sleep. It's susceptible to paralysis and all this sort of stuff. But that is not necessarily a reason to throw it out.
Yeah. Also, like normal types, it tends to feel redundant to have 3 normal types, and so people are like, maybe I want to cut the normal types, or maybe I want to use another normal type, so I need to cut one of them. But I can't cut Tauros because Tauros is just that good.
And
So probably cutting Tall Snorlax. So yeah, that's what I see.
yeah, that was pretty crazy. The amount of people who cut Snorlax for Eradicate this season.
Yeah, that's true.
If I may add in, as well, I think a lot of the reason why people tend to cut Snorlax is that whenever it comes to Tauros obviously is like the definitive RBY revenge killer, so you're never really going to take it out of the equation. And then Chansey, I don't know if this is going to prove to be consistent throughout all of Generation Jumble, but I just see Chansey personally as a really reliable wall. You can't really go wrong with using it just to soak up damage and status and whatnot. And then it's not that Snorlax is a bad choice whatsoever. I think a lot of people, when they see it, like, sometimes a lot of its niches might be better occupied by other Pokemon. But, like, for example, like, Amnesialax usually isn't a bad set whatsoever. But obviously, we had two ground types that were exceedingly performing well with Amnesia in this season. So, that's not something that you would probably see on Snorlax when you got two ground types that do exceedingly well in that role. I would say that Snorlax, again, isn't a bad Pokemon. It's more often I just see it almost feels like people want to try different kinds of, like, synergy, and Snorlax is, like, the one where, even though it's really customizable and whatnot, you could just feel like you could slot out something for, not that it's bad, just that you could probably try different team synergies that don't require Snorlax necessarily, even though it's, like, really good still.
That's true.
Yeah, because
That's
you're not really good. Yeah, you're not really going to find a replacement for RBY Chansey in a new Pokemon just because of how stats work out. Chansey is a very low effort Pokemon to be defensive with. Sometimes you'll have to put up a Reflect, but that's about it. You just click Soft Boiled and whatever other 3 moves you want to have. And Tauros is a click and crit, press A to win Pokemon. Snorlax is the customizable one, but if you were to put something to the side for the sake of using 3 normal types is kind of boring. People got to remember this is for videos as well. This is for our own entertainment. So sometimes you could be like, okay, I instead of Snorlax, I will use Gastrodon or Palossand or the Dunsparce in season 1, for example.
Or Soulspark, or things like that,
That's true.
There are
Actually,
other
To-
even normal.
types or a normal type. Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
I like using 3 normal types every season.
Yeah, me too. I have especially liked using 4 normal types. That has been really big and working out very well. That's actually good.
There actually is one thing I will say about Snorlax viability for this season specifically. I don't like. We'll talk about more later, but I think everyone can agree that the 2 definitively best Pokemon added were definitely Gastrodon and Palossand, as you can probably guess from what we talked about earlier. And Snorlax,
Yeah.
the way it fights both of them is extremely different. And for Palossand, like your typical physical Snorlax sets, you just lose straight up. You need Amnesialax with Ice Beam in order to beat Palossand, but at the same time, Gastrodon can handle Amnesialax better. Not to mention, like a physical X to do better against Gastrodon. But even then, that paralysis and body slam, I'm pretty sure Gastrodon wins. Having a pretty bad-ish matchup against both in the set, and even with the right set, it can still kind of take you on.
I mean, that's why I changed my Snorlax set, especially to have Ice Beam instead of Earthquake on the Fizzlax set.
Yeah, that's
I was thinking something like that.
Like, it's definitely not bad. Like, at worst, I'd still say Snorlax is definitely S tier. But with how good Palossand and Gastrodon are, along with everything else in the meta, I feel like Snorlax just can't justify that big 3 role anymore.
I think it still is Big 3 because, again, customizability, and also the fact that it's still one of the best, if not the best. It's like the Porygon case. It can be ruled by one thing, but you need to change the Snorlax set. If you're using Fizzlax, you're kind of screwing yourself over. But if you're using Reflect or Amnesialax, you usually have a pretty good in the matchup with those against the Amnesia setup because Snorlax is a good go either way against both of them for different reasons. Is that Palossand takes a lot of damage from Ice Beam. The special block somehow on it is kind of mid sometimes. And for Gastrodon, it hates taking too much paralysis. So paralyzing with Body Slam is actually very important because that's literally one of the best way to beat Gastrodon outside of sleep.
Fair enough. I just thought about this now.
I think it's. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you can go in a little bit. But I'm just gonna say this, I was thinking about this because me and have this. I'm thinking, are we gonna have ties? But no, Cyber might not be here, but we have his tier list. So whenever we need a tiebreaker, we can just go back to this and see what Cyber DJ, thought. I'm just finding that amusing just thinking about that right now. But yeah, you go on, Plug.
That's true.
So I mean, okay, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think I'm actually in agreement with Sotina, where it's like, even in standard RBYOU, you can replace one of the big three on your team. It's not now. It's generally not recommended that you do it, but you can do it. They're just the big three because they're at least like the most consistently top performing Pokemon in the format. I don't think Snorlax really had any performance issues per se. It had like less use because again, like I think as we said earlier on, a lot of people just like using different Pokemon. That's not that Snorlax is bad. I don't think its performance was really all that hindered, honestly, because it's still very highly customizable. We've already ran down its list of merits. I just think that it saw less use because we wanted to use different Pokemon in the format because, no one wants to just keep using the big three in every tournament. They like to experiment a little bit. And because Snorlax did have some of its niches occupied, but not so much so that it couldn't still be very versatile in its own right.
Okay. What do you
I'm on this train as well, in that just because Snorlax wasn't used doesn't mean it wasn't good. This isn't like Rhydon, where it just dropped off the face of the earth because there are so many. There's amnesia, water, grass, ice, absolutely everywhere. This is still RBY Snorlax. This is a body slam, ice beam, amnesia, rest if you want to, and your service will be fine. It's just, yeah, generally speaking, people would have preferred to use something like Executor or whatever for your slightly tankier, harder hitting Pokemon. That sort of middle ground between the Tauros and the Chansey, where you've got the bulk, you've got the damage. Downside is you don't really have reliable, in quotes, recovery in rest. Just the other amnesia Pokemon had paralysis immunity. Toxic is never around. Burn was never a problem for the two. And they had recover and shore up. So in terms of amnesia, they were more reliable than Snorlax, but there's nothing wrong with also just throwing Snorlax on your team. I would say it's probably still S tier, if not maybe the one below. Because Palisand and Gastrodon are really good.
Okay, that's true actually. Input. I'll just put Snorlax in S tier for now. But once we eventually go over what like Gastrodon and Palisand, that's when we can just have a final conclusion. Because it probably
Yeah,
talk about Snorlax when I'll talk about the others next.
yeah.
Fair.
It is kind of hard, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if my opinions will be unpopular, but I think I have an unpopular opinion about the placing.
Fair. Big three might just become big two if we don't move Snorlax up, though.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else became big three. That's the thing.
Okay, so do we want to go over really want to do Tauros next because that's like a pretty simple one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
simple. It
Is
gives
it-
stuff fast.
Palisand, so I'm thinking B2.
I was thinking C2, but yeah, sure. No, the fact that Tauros is it's customizable, it's a normal type, but it didn't need to stray too far from what it normally does. Body Slam, Hyper Beam, Blizzard, and then Earthquake wasn't
Earthquake.
really used. Yeah, it wasn't really used as much because
There wasn't as much Gengars around, so there wasn't as much opportunity to click Earthquake. It's more of that. Not that
There
it
wasn't
wasn't
as-
using it.
wasn't as much Gengar until Swordsbuck started getting more usage. Then we started seeing a bit more Gengar, but yeah, Tauros is just it does what it does in every RBY format. Stab normal, crits everything, and it's got Blizzard, which really annoys Palisand.
Yeah, especially when it crits. But yeah,
Yeah.
Palisand can survive one Blizzard crit from Tauros, which can be big.
I like the part where you
I
see
think
what Taurus normally does. That was an awesome pun.
Oh,
True.
that's
That
true,
its
yeah.
normal toolkit still works in this format just kind of shows that it did not falter whatsoever.
It's just such a reliable Pokemon.
Speaking of not,
Okay.
faltering though, I think Chansey is also just straightforward, especially in a season with Amnesia users like being in the top of the format. Chansey's just kind of fat, works out for her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of fat, but it loses to one of the Amnesia setter. And that's important to note.
I would say also, like a lot of Pokemon that came in to deal with like the amnesia Pokemon, like say Starmie, for example. Obviously having Chansey as a reliable special wall against that too, just generally, even outside of the like, oh, I'm relying on my amnesia boost to give me my special defense boost and whatnot. Chansey just being that wall you could like switch out if you're afraid of Starmie critting because don't know what it was, but every time Starmie ended up in like some sort of match with Gastrodon just kept getting crit to oblivion. But Chansey was always still the glue that held teams together, in my opinion, even outside like you had like the bulky amnesia users.
Yeah, and
100%.
it's the one that helped all the Amnesia users actually thrive because it had all the one move that they all hated, which is Razor Leaf.
I'm excited
Oh
to talk
yeah,
about
there is that too. Yeah, there's there was even a case. I'm almost certain Light Screen Chansey got used once or twice.
Yeah, Light Screen was actually good because it actually enabled it to actually become a tank against special Gastrodon, but it's very niche.
I mean, super niche, but I mean, it was there. I would still say it's the best answer to the Amnesia Pokemon defensively.
Yeah, it's the best at trying to. It's the best at trying to stalling them out, but it needs a partner for that. It can't do
Yes.
it alone, which is the main thing I want to bring our attention to. But it's still big tree, no matter what, and that's not something that changes because it's such a good de facto wall.
Being funny, man. I think we're on to something like Gastrodon, but that's a story for another day. I think I know what I want to talk about next. I think this is interesting. This season was unique because we had not one, but we had two different forms of Executor. Both ended up,
Oh yeah.
to my surprise, both Executors ended up getting a boost from this meta. Obviously, one of them was kind of made for the summer season, but Executor Cantonian did not get anything new. Despite that, it did better than the other grass types who had grass stab that goes against amnesia because they crit, but yet he was the one that ended up being the best by far. Which Executor do you guys want to talk about first?
I think I want to talk about Alolan first because it's the most interesting one. But a regular Executor got more interesting this season too, and I want to talk about that. But I think Alolan first is interesting because it's a physical attacking Executor, specifically.
Isn't like it technically is, but like it still has higher special attack for some reason, which I didn't notice
Yeah,
before making free like format. Which I don't understand why. That's just kind of dumb. But at the same time, you're definitely not complaining. You are definitely not complaining about that special attack, especially in a gen where you have max special, max attack, max everything. Helps out a lot.
yeah, it
No.
does.
But the one thing that Alolan Executor really suffered with was not having the special bulk that regular
Yeah,
Executor did. Because it's got, what, 75 special defense or something?
yeah.
Like?
The special
So
defense was pitiful due to the special splits
yeah.
that happened in later gens.
Yes, I believe normal Executor has a special of 125 in this generation, and I think that Alolan Executor still keeps 125 special attack, but its special defense plummets to 75, which is like a considerable decrease in bulk, and it's very noticeable in its matches.
Yeah.
The,
Also,
it's
there
more
is one funny thing about Alolan Executor that needs to be mentioned, and that in how it was worse in the Tapu Koko meta.
Oh wait.
Yes, it has a signature move that's a dragon type move. We just usually no dragon type move in Gen 1. But Tapu Koko was immune to its stab back then, and like, you know, we all know what infamous Tapu Koko is, but I wanted to bring that up because it's the funniest one.
I even like
But
could
yeah,
afford one since I had to use Palisade on for every single Koko. That also meant you needed to use like Venusaur, Victreebel, and Woody Koko just so you had a Razor Leaf Pokemon. So it was just not good for him. But then Tapu Koko got banned.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of fairy types, like for those of you who have the Grimmsnarl video, poison is supposed to resist fairy, right? So does poison just not resist fairy in Gen 1 custom games?
Okay, the thing is, fairy resistance got fucked in every basically every resist except fire got fucked. I think.
yeah, everything if it's before the Gen 6 implementation of fairy types, don't worry too much about what what fairy does, because like in Gen 4, steel doesn't resist fairy, and that messes everything up. But the fact that the fairy types we did add, the best one was, I would say, Tapu Bulu, was not something I was expecting
But I'm happy.
at
Like
all.
compared to
Yeah,
even
I mean-
before Generation Jumble Season 3, when I did the videos on all 4 Tapus, Tapu Bulu was the one that was clowned on the most. The one that people said would be like the worst. And for the purposes of those what if videos, that might still be the case. But now that I'm seeing how Pokemon Vinny did, I kind of doubt it. But yeah, he was called Tapu Poo Poo. You know, it was seen as like the worst Tapu. But after one of them got banned, guess who ended up being the best one? Okay, like we were talking about it with
Yeah.
executors, but screw it. I think Tapu Boo was stole the show now. Put him in the center where he belongs.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the Tapu. Why not? It's the one that stole the show.
Should we just quickly rank the Eggies just while we're here? Like,
Yeah,
I
I mean it's easy. So the classic Catonian is ST.
Yeah, Cantonius definitely S
yeah,
tier.
I can't argue with that.
I think is it just mainly the ground resistance and water resistance that helped it much better this season, or is Sweep just more valuable?
Yes, and it
because
is.
Gastron and Palisand.
It's
Is it
mainly
both?
because it resists the stabs of Palosand and Gastrodon, and it resists the coverage of that Palosand wants to use, which is Psychic. So it can just stall it out. That's mainly it.
It's a mix
It
of
was
It
both.
doesn't-
really good. Against
Yeah. It needed to run Rest to be better, which is a set Plus invented, and I think Plus should talk about Rest Executor actually.
Oh, all I was going to say is I feel like in this format, this might have just been my experience from the games, but I felt like that with the Amnesia Pokemon that bulk was a lot more important in this season. Like you had to have some Pokemon that could like stay around for the long game. And obviously Executor is one of those Pokemon where it's like it doesn't have any recovery outside of rest. So because it has those important resistances and whatnot, and it's fairly bulky, if you let it get chipped down to a pretty vulnerable extent and it can't really like heal up, it's still useful even without rest, but in a meta where it seems like having some Pokemon that can stay around for a lot longer than usual is pretty important. Rest Executor was a pretty good set because Executor was very good at resisting obviously those stabs and serving its normal role while staying around for like the long game.
Okay,
That's pretty cool.
I just heard my echo. By the way, there's something else I want to say about Avoid Executor.
Not really, but Sword Stats Explosion is funny. That's the only thing I'm gonna add.
Oh yeah,
That is
Is it
funny.
okay?
Sword stands. Yeah, that's definitely pretty big. And to my surprise,
I
when
forgot-
saw it, I saw a lot of flamethrowers.
It's a niche tech option, I guess. I didn't understand it. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it's that good.
I mean, to be fair, I think the main person
I
using it
think-
was Myrox. I think Myrox is also using Mega Drain on his own Executor.
Yeah, so we should not be taking most recommendation from my rocks. But when it comes to tearing, I think it's around C minus to D plus range. That's a range where I would put Alolanegi personally. So how do we feel about that?
I like C minus because like Dragon Hammer is just well, I mean, I guess there's Tapu Bulu and the other Tapus. For the most part, it's going to be unresisted, hitting really hard. And yes, it does have a quad weakness to ice. However, what you do get in return is just a resistance to ground, a quad resistance to water. You got a quad resistance to electric. Both of those are really, really important. Because ironically, even though the ground types got very buffed, the electric types, even without Tapu Koko, I would say also got significantly better and ended up being just as good. So, Alolan Executor being able to do good against those is really good. However, with those electric types, you do have coverage such as Zapdos with Throw Pack, or Raichu hitting just more than enough with Psychic. But still, being able to just have quad resistances and just one regular resistance to, I would say, 3 of the 5 best attacking types in the I think it's just really good to have. I just can't put it in D plus here, but I do think C minus is completely fair.
Okay, yeah.
Plus.
Oh, I think C plus works. Yeah.
Alright.
Okay.
Sorry. C minus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I forgot we're not
unanimous
doing
then.
C
Yeah,
plus,
yeah.
We're doing
So
like
C-
I forgot we're doing C1, C2 because that's how the actual idea.
Oh yeah, see, yeah, but you know, it's the same idea. One is the same as the other. So
Like honestly,
naming convention being different doesn't change.
Alolan Executor will be significantly better if you can use both species.
Yeah, that's the thing that held it back the most is species clause.
Which is kind of weird, because, like, when you think about it, species clause would only exist for Executor exactly. So, maybe we should consider this for, like, for what if videos, like, that should probably stay the same, but maybe for future jumbles, maybe we should consider, like, having this a little exception to this. At least when it's just literally one Pokemon. It's like, with all of the stuff that, like, Astronaut type of Coco are doing, I don't think Smogon would draw the line at using 2 Executors.
Yeah. No, the species clause is the thing is it's hard to have exception to the species clause. I don't know how it works and how command works, but the species clause is very limiting for that. But then we have the case of having the 5 beta growth again, which you know
Oh,
that's
yeah,
why
that,
species
Was
clause was
funny.
in the first place. Yeah, it was funny. I am
was.
completely agreeing with that.
oh, wait, it would have been
This
so
was
funny if,
wasn't it?
like, when Zashua used the 5 Metagross, it would have been funny if, like, each one was, like, Cantodian Metagross, and then Jotodian Metagross, Helosian Metagross, and just Zashua just trying to say that they're all regional variants. It would have been so funny.
Yeah, yeah, it would have been. I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Alright. Now, let's get back to
So-
Tapu Bulu, and then afterward, I think we can just
Yeah.
quickly go over the other 2 Tapu. Too much to say. So just like
Yeah, there
Executor-
isn't much to say.
like Executor, there's not really any grass staff or Tapu Bulu, but luckily you're just in a gen where water, electric, and everywhere. So being a Sword Stance user, you have opportunities. But at the same time, Palossand not really doing any numbers, I don't think. I forget what Tapu Bulu's moveset is on top of my head. I know it's the main thing.
I know the moveset, yeah. The moveset was Swords Dance, Rock Slide, Hyper Beam, and Nature's Madness. It was the only usable move that Tapu Bulu learned.
Okay, so
Which, you know,
because does Golem and Rhydon suffered, and since Tapu Bulu is using Rock Slide as its main moveset, we can even say that Tapu Bulu, depending on how you look at it, is technically the best rock user in the game.
you're right about that. Technically it is. Technically it is.
that Onyx Aerodactyl. Like they're just here just to make it look prettier because their sprites are beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. They're just excuses to watch them be cute. But yeah, despite that, Natus Madness and Hyper Beam together make a great combo, and I think Tapu Bulu has an even higher attack stat than Tapu Koko, which, we know that was crazy. But Tapu Bulu is more manageable for multiple reasons. One, it's harder to start it defensively. It has a trash speed stat. Let's be honest. It needs to set up a Swords Dance to be threatening, and it has a lot of weaknesses. I'd say it's tiptoeing the line between OU Viability and underused Pokemon with an OU niche, and it's tiptoeing that line very well. And I don't know where to put it myself, but I've used it in like semi-finals match and finals match, I think, where it put out a lot of weight to doing a successful sweep. And I think when you actually eliminate Palosand, it can run through teams very easily. And I think it's the best for that user. So I think it deserves to be either C1 or B2.
Like I only went over.
Yeah, I was.
Went after the Tapu Bulu once, not against you. And when you did use it against me, I was just actually terrified because I felt like, despite its weird move, I was not prepared for it. Or that was a lie. I ended up beating it, but at the moment, I didn't think I was prepared for it, and that's how a lot of people end up. A lot of people end up suffering the same fate, where you do the Tapu Bulu jump scare, then he short stance and beats your ass.
That's exactly how it went, and I have an apology to make to Tapu Bulu. I was the one who came up with Tapu Poo Poo because on paper it was the worst. It was the why would you use this? We have Sawsbuck, we have all these other. It's completely irrelevant. It's going to be a fumble of a Pokemon. They made that meme picture about it where Mr. Old Money was like, I can't even save you from this point. And then it swords danced and then it beat my ass. And then
The thing is, it had a lot of help in order to get there. Tapu
Yes.
Koko ban, but we forget that we were planning to add Meganium at first, and Meganium has always its stats be higher than Tapu Bulu. All of Meganium's stats were higher, and it had a better move pool, meaning there were technically no reasons to use Tapu Bulu over Meganium except Matus Madness. So when Meganium got canned, Tapu Bulu got a massive buff by proxy.
Like
I
the other
think
two Tapu forms being kind of mid also have Tapu Bulu immense. Manta Nature's Madness in execution pretty much just a unique thing that only Tapu Bulu was doing. No one else was using Super Fan using format. So Eradicate, you're not. Like, we gotta put you with the other Tapus, actually. No, not Tapu Bulu. Damn it. Okay, I might need your
Tapu
apology as
Bulu.
well.
He needs
I like
to
saying
back-
that naturally.
Yeah.
But after how the scene of things went, perhaps the real Tapu Poo was the British people that we've made along the way.
It was made. That is true. But I'm okay with Tapu Bulu being that sort of middle ground. I do agree with Satina where it's teetering on the edge of OU. Probably like a Hypno-esque UUBL Pokemon. Because it's strong. When it smacks you with a Hyper Beam and then your next response is I can't kill it with my next move. Oh no. it is pissing your pants terrifying. Quite frankly, so it's strong, but it does have its flaws. Like Satina said, it is quite slow. It has the classic Tapu no recovery issue with it, and it's a very generic move set. You couldn't expand upon it really. It wasn't it that weird case where it doesn't even get Mega Brain.
Yeah, no, it doesn't get Mega Drain. It didn't get any grass moves to which,
It was that weird.
Zach, I think you're right about being borderline, because, it's not relevant for this tier list. But I'm just thinking about Tapu Bulu and underuse. I feel like Tapu Bulu bullies Dugtrio so hard to where it might just be underused. So you switch it to like
Yeah.
Dugtrio, and then like whatever you switch into, you just get a free Nature's Madness. And underuses
I
already,
agree.
have like no defensive Pokemon whatsoever. I don't see Tapu Bulu
Yeah.
can underuse any favors.
Oh no, yeah, because the only thing that has reliable recovery down there is Kadabra. And like Kadabra is a setup fodder for Tapu Bulu. Like, I'm gonna be honest, one eye problem is probably enough to kill. One eye problem after a Swords Dance at the very least.
Okay, so that
So
makes it
like,
pretty
Yeah, it
clear because I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure B2 is like supposed to be the borderline or like underused with OU niche when it comes to like viability rankings. I'm pretty sure that's
that's supposed to be C1 in the normal Gen 1, but yeah, I'd say it's B2 would be the right call.
alright.
Either way, that's where I put it, so.
Okay, works.
And yeah, plus anything to say about Tapu Bulu? And maybe any objection to it being B or B2?
No, I think that works.
Okay.
Alright. So, let's go over Tapu Lele next. These are my personal favorite of the Tapu. And I just kind
You
of
should talk about it then.
I find Lele kind of funny because it's a psychic type, and the psychic types didn't really get nerfed. But I definitely feel like they just kind of, how do I say this? I don't know if it's new toy syndrome, but or maybe it's because there's amnesia. But psychics themselves kind of just like got put to the side. Were not really the main focus. So Lele just, I would imagine its only real purpose would be another psychic type to try to combat other psychic types, or just kind of hit hard. And I guess it could hit hard, but why would you Lele when I'm Dashion and okay, not really Palisand because Palisand's main psychic, but I don't know. Lele was just kind of weird.
I'd say just Stami.
Yeah, just
Stami is the best comparison point.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. So like, it's not like bad. Just like how the psychic types aren't bad, but even the other psychic types like Alakazam and not so much Starmie. We'll get to Starmie, and Starmie, to everyone's surprise, is doing just fine. But yeah, there's just not a lot of reasons to justify using Lele, even though it probably can win you some games.
The issue of Tapu Lele is that it's a defensive Pokemon without rest. If with stat it had rest, it would be good, but it does not, which makes it god awful. Because it's a very, very gimmicky wall. Because it doesn't last long and it gets rolled on very easily, and it has a lot of other mons to punish it.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing for the Finnies is because of their terrain aspects, they've never been given rest because they just fail to work under their terrains, other than Bulu. And maybe Lele as well, because that's priority shenanigans.
Yeah, like
But
they get them in
the
Gen 8.
Tapu
In
Tapu
Gen
took the
8,
piss.
once they get hidden abilities and telepathy, they eventually got rest. Before these jumbles, we always use their original moveset, which means no rest, which does significantly hinder its melee and Finny. But go on.
Yeah, and even offensively, there's no reason to use Lele or Finny. You've got Alakazam, you've got Starmie, hell, you've got Slowbro, you've got. I mean, even I'd rather use Hypno over Lele, and they don't bring anything to the table. They, like Sotina said, they're these bulky Pokemon. They hit pretty hard between Psychic, Nature's Madness, Hydro Pump, and Blizzard. Lele's got Thunderbolt as coverage, which wasn't very useful, but it was there. And they get rolled over. They get rolled over. They've got no rest. Any chip damage they take is gone. Anytime they get crit by a body slam, that HP's gone forever. It's even Jinx uses rest, and Jinx folds like a piece of paper in the wind. So they just didn't see any use. They are, I would say, objectively bad in OU. I think I would say it's a detriment to bring them. Sure, they can probably get you a KO or two or do some decent damage. I would say they're a detriment to bring to your team.
I think
I-
I wasn't even like I was just. I'll be honest. I think I'm more just trying to be a little bit biased, by the way. But yeah, like it never really felt good using either. It definitely felt like they were just lacking so many options. And maybe with terrain they'll be better. But I'll be honest. Okay, Bulu would be better, but also with Bulu, the grass terrain would be just as much good. I really don't know what. I'm pretty sure even with better, but I don't think it would really change the
I
that
think
much.
I think Finny would be much better with the terrain because psychic terrain it just prevents priority and I think increases psychic damage, which is strong. Finny would alter everything because it prevents status effects.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, that is.
that
Oh god, no.
paralysis is gone.
Keep Gastron and the misty terrain away from me.
Yep. Like even Coco doesn't really benefit. Sure, electric gets boosted, but it just prevents
It prevents sleep, which is very good because because of what Tapu Koko is.
Wait, hold on a second.
Like,
I
Yeah.
don't know how this works for custom games. Obviously, electric terrain would boost Thunderbolt. Would the crit ignore that?
no, because it's an increase of the base power of the moves. It's like burn. It's like burn. Wait, if it's like burn, I don't know. It's a thing we need to test. We need to try it out.
It's a weird thing because like we've tested Life Orb in Gen 1 and you take the HP recoil but you don't get a damage boost. So maybe the terrains are the same in the way the damage boosting works. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, by the way, he texted me because got busy with something. He had to go. So it's just me and the Europeans for the rest of this. So that is definitely
Okay, yeah.
something. So like, let's put away and Finny where I think. Well, now that Cyber and Paws on here, I can make fun of them behind their backs. So that means these two would probably be like plus, I guess.
No, I think they're legitimately just D-pure.
I can see that.
I
too.
think that okay, and if I'm very specific, Tapu Fini, the water one, Tapu Fini is D, and Lele is D plus because Lele has the advantage of having 130 special attack psychic, which is not a lot, but it's something. Well, Fini has truly nothing besides Nature's Madness.
Yeah, like at the bare minimum, Lele can get a special job, which I guess is like
Yeah.
I guess it's more than like what Beedrill's doing. I'm pretty sure even Beedrill had a more memorable tournament.
Yeah, no, Lily wasn't used in World Tournament, and I've watched every replay. No, even Finny got used, but it was with an illegal set.
Yeah, like
which did not use any attacking move, by the way.
Even illegal
Yeah.
Fini wasn't
Early-
even that good.
Yeah, it was just bad.
No, I was riding the Tapus quite early, like Lele and Finny. I think particularly Finny because it's water and ice, which is good for this meta. But just use Starmie if you want to do
So-
that. Just use
Okay, I'm
So-
gonna be honest. At the start of the season, they were good, especially Tapu Fini, because they enabled Tapu Koko. That was their only niche, was being great enabler to Tapu Koko. Because Nature's Madness, because having two users of Nature's Madness was actually viable, and you couldn't use Tapu Bulu. So you had to choose between the other two. And Tapu Fini could take on Palo Sand, which was the Coco counter. And that's why it was used. Now it's just kind of meh.
Yeah.
It's not even meh. It's just bad, which is a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame because those two are quite a nice design, and I like how they look.
Speaking of a shame, I have one that you guys probably won't expect me to talk about. I'm actually kind of curious. Out of all the Pokemon here that have not seen, and I mean like literally no play whatsoever, which one do you think had the most? Because I think mine is pretty obvious. If you want a hint, it's also one that would fit. Wasn't already a Gen 1 Pokemon.
There is a lot of those, but I think you specifically are talking about Kingler.
You right on the money, Sotina. Let's go.
Yeah, and I know what you're thinking. I think you're right about that. I kind of forgot it existed, but yeah, no. Oh no, it would be great. Oh no, we gotta talk about that now.
Yeah, Crabhammer against Palisand. Are you kidding me? That's a nice amnesia, buddy.
Yeah, that's a nice
But
amnesia.
the problem is, if Pokemon like Victory Bell and Ludicolo couldn't really pull it off,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a Swords Dance user, and I think that's what differentiates it. It's a good user.
True. I was gonna say because Ludicolo has Swords Dance as well, but
yeah,
Victor Bell also has
like
every grass type has Swords Dance for some reason.
yeah.
Yes, I love using Swords Dance rap. I honestly, I have been thinking about this whenever season 3 has come up. I do think that Victory Bell was underrated, and I do think Ludicolo was underrated. I just think that I wasn't very good at playing with Ludicolo.
Okay, no, I'm gonna. Ludicolo was overrated and still is overrated to this day. I'm sorry, Zach. I cannot agree with you.
Oh god.
It just has to be a fist fight.
God, we'll talk about Ludicolo in a little bit. Here's what I think is like the
but
problem with Kingler. Like, I don't think it's suffers from the same problem that the types do, because it handles the water types pretty well. But like I said, even without Tapu Koko, and even with the ground types being very good, the electric types are also just fantastic. And Raichu is everywhere. And as the meta went on, ended up being more as a mid-game or late-game corner. So Zapdos and Raichu in the late game just Kingler? Yeah, it's not gonna be able to do that much. Really unfortunate.
I mean, okay, Kingler is matchup reliant, but it can work sometimes because there are teams that don't use the electric types. I personally think the electric types are pretty mid, except Zapdos. Zapdos is my bestie. Alolan Raichu is kind of mid. In the sense that it's overrated, not actually mid. But yeah, I think there is a lot of merit to Kingler because not everyone uses the electric types. Alolan Raichu is just Newton syndrome making and even then, I think that pairing Kingler with something like Palosan fixes a lot of those issues.
That's true. That's definitely.
Though to be fair, what doesn't get fixed if you add a Palosan to it?
I'm personally thinking maybe I want to say C2, but I feel like if I say C2, that would imply Kingler would be under.
No, the two of them are independent. Like something can be C tier in OU and be done and be in NU. Like you, which was the case for Victory Bell before it rose. It was C tier in OU and then it rose.
Okay, so then if that's the case, then I feel pretty about C2 then. What do you guys think?
My thought personally are D plus. I think that's why it fits as a big attacker. You know, kind of like Tapu Lele. It has an opportunity to do big damage, but it's kind of gimmicky with how it does it. Zach, your thought?
I was considering around that tier. I'd even maybe put it in C2 as well because it does provide a lot more than Pokemon like Tapu Lele. It's got the Sword Stance, Hyper Beam, and the critical Crab Hammer, which is already a lot of value, as we've seen from things like Tapu Bulu. Sword Stance, Hyper Beam can go a long way even without Stab. So I personally, I'd say C2 with the Lowland Executor.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. We can have Cyber still list for a little tiebreaker for just
And also
Yeah, what
pauses.
is
for
Pauses also
consistency.
have tits. Or wait, no, I don't want to.
Okay,
You guys
yeah.
can just look at it for me. Or everything's a level. Oh no, he didn't put Kingler on here.
Yeah, I'm good. We're good.
Oh, that's a
So
shame.
Claus has put Kingler in D tier, and Cyber hasn't put Kingler.
And imagine just
Yeah,
being a
that's
crab. Like Cyber, if you're watching this right now, you are required to give your viability ranking on Kingler. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Or I do make the rules, and I garbage enforce
yeah,
them.
so true. But since we've talked about that, we can move on to Ludicolo because I have strong feelings about this. This is the one I proposed to add because I thought it was cool. It was funny, some brave but it was quite unique.
Like, I find out something
Uh,
also, Tina. Like, you were able to make Crobat work, but then you have, like, the Sword Stance, Surf, Hydro Pump, Blizzard, Thunder Punch, Sword Sensing. I think I'm already said Sword Stance, but you get the point. He has a lot of versatility, but at least for me, I always felt like he was underwhelming. I don't think I said it publicly, but in my mind, I always just called him Woody Co. O. Because you get disappointed when
yeah,
you use him.
okay. The thing that really sold it as very bad to me is that even with Swords Dance, it didn't break Chansey. Like Chansey could sit on it and Seismic Toss for free. Like Ludicolo Swords Dancing wasn't scary to Chansey. Chansey could stay in and do what it wants, and that's crazy for Chansey to do what it wants on something that Swords dances. It has a very low attack stat, and that's the main issue with it. Its attack stat doesn't work for Swords Dance. And the rest of its stab are pretty mid, and it doesn't offer a lot of utility outside of that. Most people were using Leech Seed, for God's sake. Which,
You say you say most people. I was probably, and I still am, the most ardent Ludicolo defender. Ludicolo has been my mascot in season 3, and I didn't use Sword Stance on it once. I was a Ice Beam, Razor Leaf, counter toxic Ludicolo person myself. Sometimes Leech Seed instead of toxic, but yeah, you got to think about it like this: Ludicolo, it comes in, it threatens Palisand and it threatens Gastrodon. It doesn't mind Earthquake, it doesn't mind Surf, and it's neutral to the Ice type moves. So it against them, it works out pretty well. The problem is it scares them off, and what comes in next is something that Ludicolo just can't handle. Offensively, I would say Ludicolo is perfectly fine. I didn't come across any issues other than Zapdos's Drill Peck, where I was like, oh man, Ludicolo is really letting me down defensively. Offensively, though, Ludicolo was really lacking because, like Sotina said, even with Sword Stance, its middling attacking stat didn't help it, and it's got no way to boost its special stat, and that hurt as well. But it's a shame. I do think Ludicolo is pretty mid. I think it has value because of its niche that it has, specifically against Gastrodon and Palisand.
Oh yeah, it has
But,
value. That's not a thing we are arguing against. It's just that it feels bad to use. It's kind of like the Tapu's case.
it is offensively is where it struggles, which is a shame against everything else that is not Palisand and Gastrodon. So where it does work, it's got really good value, but then your opponent switches out, and then you've got a free turn now, and that kind of sucks. But no, I had fun with Ludicolo. Counter Toxic to help against things like fast Pokemon Chansey was very entertaining. Or surviving Taurus's Hyper Beam and then OHKOing it back with counter was also really fun. But yeah, Ludicolo, there wasn't really much point. I think going back to it, Victory Bell is just objectively better. And I wouldn't say I'd use Venusaur, but
I think they're kind of equal between the two. Venusaur and Ludicolo are kind of equal in underwhelmingness.
Yeah, I'd say that, and Sourceback I think was just better than probably maybe all of them.
Suspect was
Or no,
better than all
Suspect.
of them.
Now it's Suspect, but I disagree with saying Victory Bell is objectively better than Woody Bell. I do think Victory Bell is better, but I wouldn't use the word objectively. Keep in mind, because of Victory Bell having the poison type, it's neutral towards earthquakes. Critical having a full resistance is pretty helpful. Although outside of
Yeah,
that, it's like
outside of that,
yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
I mean, you made an argument, Zach. I know you did, but like, of course, the Beans on Toast defender is going to defend Woody Kolo, so most of your opinion has already been discarded by me, as well as the rest
That's
of my
fine.
commenters, hopefully.
I'll have defenders in there. It'll mainly be me. But that's
So
not the point.
where do we actually think it is? C2 or D plus? No, that's
I'd
D
say
plus is
better than that.
yeah. D plus is kind of mean, but I think it's in that range. That's why I'm asking because it's a range. I have ranges. I don't have actual rankings.
I mean, I feel
It
like
is-
compared to like a low end Executor and King, I feel like you're definitely going to see Woody Kolo way more than those.
You see it more, but it feels like one of those picks that's there because it's popular and it looks cool and it feels nice at first. And then the more you use it, the worse it gets. But it having good usage doesn't mean it's very good. It's like all the Charizard you will see on ladder, for example.
I'd say C1. I wouldn't go much higher than that. It's not better than Bulu, but it's better than a lowland Executor. And Kingler, on paper, sounds really good, but that didn't get used, which is a shame because it actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm also this. Like, I don't think it's the best thing you can think, but a quad water resistance, a ground resistance, those are already just really good to the point where I feel like, I mean, I know.
Okay, and everyone else is saying C12 on their other tier list, so I think you can put it there. Just that I disagree with it personally.
As a Tina's got to win another
So
tournament just to prove her point.
Yeah, exactly.
I noticed. Sorry, I'm
just checking the others.
Yeah, comment below who you think won season 3. It's up to interpretation, actually.
Yes, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
Also, it seems here that
if you say Zach and Thea's won, well then like,
I
would say hi Zach. Thanks for the Patreon support, because you're the one person that would say that.
Yes, exactly. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we have a Patreon for Groundback, so if you want, you can go into the description if you have the means to give out support. It means a lot.
I got concerned for a minute when you said we, so Tina.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon. Yes, we, comrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are the legit. Yeah, you know, we want a console pay, but unfortunately, it's like for those. How is it called?
Tina, after winning Generation Jumble, your money. You mean our money?
This is
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So.
Yes.
The subject,
Moxie also put it in C1.
I don't like paying my mom.
Yeah, Moxie.
Well,
No,
since we spoke about both of them, I think it's a nice lead into Venusaur and Victory Bell.
Who are we talking about?
Venusaur and Victory Bell, I think, are where we left off, so I think we can just go on that flow.
Yeah, what's this thing about the other grass types? Like, some of these I think we can probably just flat ignore. Like, I don't think we need to really talk about Charizard or Blastoise. But
no, we don't really need to talk about it.
Definitely gonna.
Yeah, Venusaur got used and got thought about because of Razor Leaf, so it needs to be brought up.
Yeah, we need to bring up other wave users and discuss why none of them really managed to fully catch on.
Yeah. So for Victory Bell not catching on, it's fairly simple. It was thought about too late. I thought about bringing in only when the finals happened. You did the same thing. We both brought Victory Bells to the finals. We both lost with Victory Bell. Doesn't mean anything in the great scheme of things, but I find it as a funny coincidence.
Well, and also, I guess we'll talk about it later, but I also tried using Gyarados, which if it was Kanto plus Gyarados, I might have just beaten you for the finals. That's also Kanto plus.
I mean, yeah, it's Kanto Plus. Unfortunately, Kanto Plus Gyarados was nerfed, so now it's not doing that. But
Hi, Briscato.
Uh,
At the moment, you're commenting in all caps. Kanto plus mentioned.
Also, Venusaur.
exa- also Venusaur. But yeah,
Yes,
Venusaur is interesting. Yeah, Briscato will love Venusaur, and it's the only reason it got used in the first place, because I don't think anyone else brought Venusaur to their games.
No.
As a matter of
I don't think
fact.
so.
But Venusaur was niche, but it was too frail to do anything.
I wouldn't even say it was too frail.
C2.
The C2 to D plus range is where I would put it to be fair. So yeah, I think Alolan Executor is better. Personally, so I think it should be under it at the very least.
I think
I can agree.
better, but I also feel like it's weird, but I feel more comfortable defensively using.
The thing is, Kingler is one of the water types that has a low special stat due to the crit rate. So yeah, it's kind of frail outside of its defense. And defensively, Kingler is worse than Venusaur. That's a thing we can agree on. But Victreebel should sit next to Ludicolo, and that's only due to Rap being that good.
I'd even put it next to Bulu, personally.
I guess an argument for that. It was unexplored, I'm gonna be honest. The thing is, the meta was very slow, all things considered. Like, it was Gastrodon, Chansey, Palosand, Snorlax, all of those outsped by Victreebel. And Victreebel can wrap and Razor Leaf all of them to death. It has Sleep Powder for sleep support. It has Stun Powder, which means it can paralyze the ground types, which are very important. If it wants to play like that.
Yeah, when you word it like
it has Sword Dance and Hyper Beam.
Yeah, when you word it like that, I think Victreebel is. I'm leaning towards more so D2. Like, I don't think. Don't be crazy. I don't want to say it's better, like, status setter than, like, Chansey or Jinx, but being able to paralyze the ground types is really good. Meta being naturally slow means that Rap is just naturally just really threatening. And while it isn't anything outside of the ground types hard, that's not really what Victreebel is trying to do. It's just a really good support Pokemon. And that can take advantage of a lot of things. It will be putting something to sleep, unless it feels like pulling a ground back and missing 4 sleep powders in a row.
Yeah, exactly. And Victreebel is there to do cheap damage with Rap, so Victreebel is a cheap game, nothing else. Just cheap, nothing else, I think it's pretty chill.
I think the main thing holding Victreebel back, one, is the poison type, because you're always going to run into these issues where there is going to be Psychic around. Don't think we're ever really going to not have that, but it is kind of frail because, like, Gastrodon had Ice Beam as coverage, so switching in was kind of risky. Alasand had Psychic as coverage, so switching in was kind of risky. Generally, it's quite frail, which is kind of the issue. But I would put it in the same tier as Bulu. You're trading off Bulu's raw power and one notedness. Whereas Victreebel does have Razor Leaf, Sleep Powder, it's got Wrap, it's got Sword Stance, Hyper Beam. It is quite frail and exploitable, which is the only downside. I'd like to have seen it more, because I think it would have performed really well. But just from what we've said, I'd say B2.
Yeah. It's theoretically the same as in Classic RBY, but it got even better, I think, than Classic RBY, which is very fun to see happen.
Yeah, it got more Razor Leaf viability, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think, everyone except Cyber put Victreebel in the OU part, so yeah, it's B2. I think it's fair to assume that.
I think so far it was like the lovable underdog tier, and I like that.
Yeah, speaking of lovable underdog, Sourcebug.
I'm so happy Sourcebug. So, Tina, you said Sourcebug was going to be your mascot.
Yeah,
made
and it kind of was some way. It's the first Pokemon I used.
Yeah, like that's what I associate with Lucina. Whenever I think about just battling you, my mind always resorts to lead Sawsbuck.
Yeah, Lead Sourcebuck is amazing for what it is.
It is so
And
good. I I remember facing off against this lead Sawsbuck, and it's so bizarre. Didn't we decide that the only thing that can Okoa it outside of a crit is like Articuno's Blizzard, which is
and Moltres Fire Blast. Those are the only two moves that can Oko it without a crit, meaning that Sourcebuck is actually quite safe in every single matchup outside of the crit chance of Jinx, which it's speed tie with, which they both can Oko each other with the same.
Yeah.
So it's basically a coin flip.
yeah, it's kind of a mini Tauros, but not in the way that like Hisuian Zoroark was in season 1. It's got the same attack stat, so your Body Slam and Hyper Beam are still doing the same damage. You've got Swords Dance, which is really nice. Thunder Wave, great support. Horn Leech for weird little niche hitting and sustainability. Sort of, you got. Does it have Jump Kick? It's got Jump Kick, right?
It got jump kick, but since the ride on was so bad, the normal type move were better, and Unleash has the benefit of hitting Gastrodon for very good damage, and Palosan, which is immune to your stuff.
And Rhydon,
Yeah.
so
So-
even if like Rhydon was good, you just use Reach over Jump Kick and every day of the week.
Yeah, also that. So this is like pretty good.
If it was any more than 95 speed, if it was like 100 speed, it would be so much better. Even it would actually be really strong at 110. If you were speed tying things like Tauros, it would be
If it was to
genuinely.
speed tie things like Tauros, it would be too strong, I'd
Yeah.
say.
Because it is. It's slightly frailer than Tauros. Slightly frailer than Tauros, but it's got Thunder Wave and Sword Stance.
And by the way, like speaking of which, I think we need to talk about it because you talked about Hisuian Zoroark. Hisuian Zoroark, just like Tauros and Sawsbuck here, had the same attack stat with normal stat with Sword Stance, but despite Ghost Normal sounding like the better typing, and it flat out just is compared to Grass and Normal. Sword Stance was not good on Hisuian Zoroark, but it is good on Sawsbuck. And why is that? Well, I think one of the big reasons is that for Generation Jumble Season 1, while you're good at having immunities, Hisuian Zoroark's stats just means that it can't really afford to just waste a turn to go for Sword. A little bit too frail. Meanwhile, with Paralysis support, which you could just flat out do yourself, and being a grass type, meaning you have the very valuable resistances to water, ground, and electric, Sawsbuck actually has those opportunities to safely go for a Sword Stance, while Zoroark does not.
Yeah, and it allows it to to start for a very fast-paced game when this meta is actually quite slow. If you see Sawsbuck lead, the game will go fast, which is a change of pace that catches people off guard. And the first time I used this theoretical Sawsbuck in the tournament, when I unleashed it on the world, it got like 2 or 3 kills with in the first like few turns of
Yep.
existing. And like
It
against
is-
Zach, it got also a lot of kill when secret matches that we did in the background.
And
Yes, had
like,
little test matches.
what I'm starting to realize? Like, doing this viability ranking, it's really starting to make me realize just how cool the grass types were this season.
Oh yeah,
Right?
100%.
Yeah, those are super cool. They're one of the best Pokemon we've added.
So what do we?
Let's see. Where would we rank?
I'm thinking
Yeah,
B2, which is funny because B2 is a grass type tier, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's good because they're in B2 because of their they've got value in a lot of different ways, but they do have these traits that are holding them back. Like grass isn't the best defensive typing. You do have useful resistances, but you do have quite a few weaknesses. and they're exploitable in their own different ways.
Yeah. Sourceback is the least exploitable one though from what I've played, because I've used all of them, funnily enough, so I'm quite experienced in talking about all of them.
I think
And yeah,
The ultimate person for grass.
exactly. And Sourceback has also the opportunity to also not just be a lead, it's not like an hypno case where it's only good as a lead. It's also been seen as a late game cleaner, and it's great at doing that too. So it has options with what it does, and even it's in the move set as option. My personal go-to was Swords Dance, Hyper Beam, or Niche Thunderwave. That was the best set for the lead slot, and yeah.
No, I totally agree. It's grass types were just generally reliable. They weren't great, but they all had some kind of thing to do, which is nice because it's normally a pretty bad type.
Exactly, yeah, which is cool.
Yeah. One of my main goals for this
So
like seriously buff grass. And while it wasn't as explosive as, ground or electric, which even then they were already good type, I feel like this was kind of perfect. Where it's like you really buff them, you make them good, but they're not like we're broken or meta defining. I would compare the grass types here to like Mario and Super Smash Bros. Melee. If that makes any sense.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think I've played a lot of Melee personally. I don't know Zach's experience, but yeah, it's a beginner it's a beginner stuff. It's a thing that's good all around. Doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, doesn't have a lot of strength, but it's very good at what it does.
My opinion is I was a brawl player, so
Let's go,
my
baby!
opinion is
I mean, to be fair,
So-
Brawl is cool, and it's one of the best game story-wise.
Subspace Emissary was so good. Anyway, that's not the point. Just because Subspace Emissary is S tier doesn't mean we can get distracted.
It just because
Let's move
Worldwide
forward.
is dog shit does not mean the grass types are that bad. Alright,
Yeah, exactly.
the World of Light.
Right.
You know what?
Who's
Let's use World of Light as a way to transition into the electric types. So,
Oh
Okay.
yeah, true.
also speaking of the World of Light being shit, Jolteon and Pin Missile. After Tapu Koko got banned, I tried to make it work. I definitely did. And I did beat some newbies, but like even looking for coverage, Pin Missile's just not gonna.
And the funny thing is, with Jolteon, that both double kick and Thunderbolt are immune by Palosand, and Palosand is kind of omnipresent, so Jolteon got so much worse just due to that.
Yep.
Like
It fell off
Like I feel definitely saw Jolteon more than you saw Swelbo or Rhydon. I almost kind of feel like it's better in general. Because even though it does get walled so hard, like the things that Jolteon
It's
does
better.
yeah, like it has a strong Thunderbolt.
It has it has better, it has a better niche than Rhydon and whoever the fuck is the next one, I forgot his name.
His name is
Slowbro. Yeah, so yeah, Jolteon has a higher level in terms of niche. It has a more valuable niche due to its speed stat, being able to paralyze turbos and stuff, but fast electric type have a lot of rep. You have to compete with and Raichu, Zapdos, and those two were unforgivable in terms of niche. But Jolteon is still good enough to be around C1 to C2 range, so I'm gonna say it. Jolteon was mid, like it always is.
I agree. It's not a bad Pokemon by any means, but when you have Zapdos and Alolan Raichu, it's a case of why would you use Jolteon?
And I can answer that personally. Like, obviously, I didn't keep the strategy, but the reason you Jolteon is just because Tapu Koko more. But then that begs the question: why use 3 electric types in the first place? Especially when there's so many good ground types. That's just because with like psychic support or grass types, once you actually take out the ground type, electric is just a really devastating like offensive type that a lot of teams are not really prepared to handle once their ground type gets node. I realized pretty early on that at least with 3, it it just wasn't worth it. The ground types are just they just have too much longevity. And also the fact that Palisand, it just had to resist Pin Missile because, it didn't beat Jolteon hard enough. And the worst part is that since it's the only thing that can kind of hit Palisand, that's yet another reason why Pin Missile, I think, kind of needed to be mandatory on Jolteon. It was just such a weird thing that happened. But, honestly, I'm surprised you guys are talking about maybe C tier. Because I was going to be fine playing Jolteon as, like, one of the better Pokemon in D. I guess looking at
no, that's a disgrace. The speed stat is good enough to put it up there.
Alright, yeah, I'm okay with C2. I don't know about C1. I think it's being a little bit too generous, and that's from a big Jolteon supporter.
Yeah, it's generous. I went with the most generous estimates, that's why.
Alright.
But yeah, C2 is where I want it to be.
Yep, that's
But
fine.
yeah, I think Plus and Cyber were more like were very more harsh on Jolteon. Plus put it in. Oh no, they weren't harsh at all. Wow.
Cyber put it in the D tier, and then Oz put it in the B tier.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, C2 is a good average, basically.
Yeah, meet the middle.
Alright.
It's good. Good work, team.
Okay.
I'm a big, like everyone else, like Riscato, Cyber's been vocal about the very beginning. Latina, all of you guys, everyone seemed to have fallen out of love with Alolan Raichu. And despite the reputation of Raichu, thanks, like bickering actually, I personally never stopped loving it. I always felt like it was great beginning. I feel like it's great now. I feel like Alolan Raichu is one of the big reasons why the other psychics as a whole didn't really have a lot of spotlight. Because Raichu already did a good job for fulfilling the need of your mandatory psychic type. I felt like just electric psychic as his offensive type is really good. Nothing really resists you. And on top of that, it has Surf, which is just perfect coverage for a ground-centric metagame, as well as Submission. Because as a little bit of a more higher attack stat, we can even do a good job against Chansey. It might not be the omnipresent, always good elite that it started out as, but for me, I always love offensive strategies. So for me, whenever there's Raichu out, I always feel like there's something I can always be making some sort of progress. Like, I personally am like a big supporter for A tier. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm gonna let Zach speak first because I'm a Raichu hater and I'm gonna speak last.
I am a Raichu supporter. I don't know where all this hate's come from, and I think it's Alolan racism, personally. But true, it is true. It is true. The fact that it can OHKO Rhydon with Surf 100% of the time, whereas regular Raichu can't, was one of the nails in the coffin for Rhydon. That was something we discussed way earlier on, because Alolan Raichu, getting a Psychic type, which is either the best or the second best typing in the game, depending on your opinion, and it hits harder, and I think it's faster than Raichu, right? Isn't it slightly faster?
It's 110, it's turbo speed.
Yeah, it's speed ties with Tauros and Gengar.
So that's massive. Like, even these small little increments just goes to show how close to perfection Raichu was. But it's such a good Pokemon. It's so reliable. If it didn't have Surf, I think it would be really good, but not as reliable. The fact that it had Surf was such a really good coverage move. Strong Thunderbolt, Stab Psychic, which is massive in basically any time we do these. Thunder Wave, Submission if you really wanted to. I think it's a really good A tier Pokemon. I do. I think it's solid.
Also,
okay, so time for rating.
Wait, let me say this real quick before you go. I'll talk about this more with Zapdos. Another reason why I'm a big Raichu and Ace supporter is that Alolan Raichu and Zapdos work exceptionally well with each other. Thunderbolt hits hard, but both of them have the perfect coverage for the other. Grass types resist electric, Zapdos has Drill Peck. Ground types are immune to electric, Raichu has Surf. The two of them just make a really good offensive combo that is really hard to have any good consistent switches into. Especially at the late game where the ground type has probably wasted a lot of its resources.
Mm, yeah, no, that's true. That's a true thing. They work well together, but I want to draw attention to the fact that Raichu is very frail, and like that's because of the special stat, right? That's a special stat thing. Despite having a very good typing, it always has been frail, and it didn't last long, and it hated the speed type with Tauros because Tauros had just a shot at just bullshitting his way through it, right? And it's either Raichu wants the exchange or Tauros won it, and as the coin flip, the Raichu player did not feel good about it most of the time. I personally did not feel good with those coin flips. As a lead, it's okay. It has good matchup and bad matchups. It's a decent lead. Overall, I'm saying I'm a Raichu hater. Uh, but it's because I don't think it's because people were classifying as the sixth best Pokemon in the metagame, and I was totally against that because that's what the prediction theories of most people were at first. On my end, I think it's a good around like A2 Pokemon, and so it's still an 80. I think Zapdos is better most of the time. But yeah, it's an A2. It's still 80. I just don't think it's A1, if that makes sense.
One thing I don't necessarily disagree with Raichu not liking Rose. Like, I don't speak from experience. When I did have to face with the two, I felt uncomfortable using Raichu. I'm also going to argue for the most part it's not super relevant because Raichu was more so a mid-game Pokemon that would, get a lot of kills then. Not so much late game. I think that's part of the reason why I think its bulk isn't really that big. In a way, it just allowed you to use Tauros early without actually wasting your Tauros, or allowed you to use your Zapdos early without using your Zapdos. We're going to talk about Zapdos really after this. So, but TLDR, I do think Zapdos is better. For the most part,
Yeah.
I feel like Raichu's faults aren't really that big a deal, especially when you're actually using in the late or in the mid
No,
game
then
as a revenge killer or just doing consistent damage or paralyzing anything. I figured it does that job really well, but I'm curious to see where Zach votes it.
Yeah, Zach already voted for it to be 80.
No, which one? A1 or
I'd be
A2?
happy with it being. So I think one of the good things about Alolan Raichu is I think it was one of the reasons why Jolteon just kind of fell off because you resist Drill Peck and Thunderbolt from Zapdos, but you have Stab Psychic to hit it back, which was actually pretty huge compared to just using Thunderbolt because you get the special drops. But having that speed tie with Tauros, we're going to go back to this again, is scary for the Raichu player. But it's also scary. It's equally scary for the Tauros player because you risk taking just a raw Thunder Wave, and that's a good trade. The fact that a Raichu, of all Pokemon, is able to basically coin flip with Tauros, it's pretty good. But it does have really good matchups. It's a solid speed tier, solid damage, really good offensive typing, good coverage. I think A2 and Zapdos would probably go A1.
For me, I'm thinking A2. And I'm looking at Cybers and Plus. I think it's BT, which I disagree with. Personally, I think it's higher. But so I think we can average it at A2, which I think is fair for Alolan Raichu, because I think Zapdos is more deserving of A1. Zapdos is actually A1 in my opinion.
So
For
I
just
personally
being one of the
prefer to put it
best.
in A1, but if the other council members are putting it in, I guess it's only fair to put it in. So I'll do that right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about Zapdos, which, Zapdos does Zapdos things. It's flying type, just like in Generation Jumble Season 2, is even better. So, in many ways, Drillpick is almost better than Bolt, but it's a good late game cleaner. and like Satina said, the meta's just naturally slower, and you have things like Victory Bell getting better, which means play upon those, especially since it doesn't care about paralysis. With the one thing I will say, for the most part, it doesn't matter. Like both Raichu and Zapdos don't really want to face Palisand or Gastrodon, but Raichu does do better against those two. Obviously, Raichu does have Surf for Palisand, and a crit Surf Palisand needs to be paired. And against Gastrodon, no one uses Earthquake on Gastrodon anymore, so crits or special drops with Psychic does do better, at least compared to Zapdos Drill Pecking both of them. But that's about it. Everything else, Zapdos just does better against. Does better against Tauros. Obviously does better against Exeggutor. Or just pretty much anything else in the format, since there's not really any Gloma right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zapdos does Zapdos things. There we are.
Yeah,
And
Zapdos does Zapdos thing.
It's
all that happened was that Thunderbolt got more value without Rhydon. Although we did have Gastrodon and Palisand, but that's a... And Drill Peck got more value because of all the grass types. So overall, Zapdos kind of got a little bit better.
not to mention with those ground types,
But
always for Palisand, like having that Earthquake immunity is also came in handy sometimes. It wasn't always useful, because even though you can switch into like Palisand's Earthquake, not only was Earthquake ironically dropped near the end, but you don't do anything afterward. Because you might not resist Jopek, but with Shore Up and bulky defensive stats, Palisand might as well.
Yeah, it's like 20% max damage for the Devil Pack, so it wasn't really good. And crit was like a treat KO, so you needed 3 crit in a row on something that heals and cannot be paralyzed.
Yeah, so it's just it's not working out.
And things that had Hypnosis too. But yeah, Zapdos is A1, and Zapdos is amazing, as always.
Yeah, it always is. So I guess we're gonna talk about the other legendary birds. Is there anything that we
I was
talk
just
about
about to say the
Moltres?
same thing.
Because like Moltres does better against the grass types, but like they're not even guaranteed to be on every
I was
team.
It's
so disappointed.
Moltres has a good niche. I think it's C1 personally. That's why I would rank it. It does good at what it does. It has agility. It has fire spin for special trapping, which helps. The fire blast is actually quite strong. Fire blast from Camerot was about to tweet Palossand, so Moltres is also about to tap Palossand, which is important. On top of being immune to EQ. So like you could just Fire Blast and Fire Spin your way through Palossand. Which is a very funny thing to do, I think, personally. But outside of that, it didn't do a lot.
No, they neither of them did. I know Articuno saw some good play. Can't remember who it was that was using Articuno. Was it Riscato?
No, okay, Rascato used Mono Ice at some point, and Gabby did. But Gabby used a weak set with Mist.
And Funny Man used Articuno against me. And with my match with Funny Man,
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt like Articuno was hitting so hard, and I was surprised I took it out, because I felt like my team had no answer for it.
Yeah, both of them are just CT, personally. They're very good in the right matchup, but they really doesn't need to be built around.
Yeah.
Especially when Articuno has an evolved version of itself that's in the format.
Yeah. I think it's a shame. I thought for the preseason predictions, I thought they were both going to do a whole lot better than they normally would, but they didn't really get any usage, which was a bit of a shame. I do think they are, I'd say, C1 tier. They are Fire Blast and Blizzard. They don't mess around. They do not mess around. And there wasn't much that could get in the way of the two of them, but I don't know. Once you get an amnesia up, they kind of don't do anything. And there's also the thing with Chansey, and you had Reflect Chansey, Bolt Beam Chansey, all this sort of weird shenanigans. So it's a shame. I was hoping they would have done a lot better, but you've got Zapdos. What are you gonna do?
Speaking of doing better, I'm gonna be real. Jinx, I'm pretty sure, should have been one of the best Pokemon. But why did I never see?
Uh, so Jinx is actually very good, but just wasn't used. Yeah.
I think I used it towards the end of my. Well, I say towards the end of my run, which didn't last very long. I think Jinx is one of those Pokemon where it just has all the right things that it needs. But no, you're right. We got no usage out of it, which was a bit of a shame. I think it's a really solid Pokemon. Like when I think about it, I do think it's probably what around the range of a Alolan Raichu, where we've got it now. What, A2?
It's about A1 to A2 range, yeah. It's about that. It wasn't used a lot because there is a new toy in Vanilluxe, and also it got one scary matchup into the Sourcebuck lead, which is a coin flip. So, which was a rare one to be sure, but it was relevant enough to scare off some Dix usage. But I think Jinx was used. There was a lot of Jinx usage. Personally, I ran into a lot of Jinx, so I don't know what you guys are on about with it having no usage.
Well, not you know
I use
but like just on paper, like the meta is naturally slower, so 95 speed is actually a lot better here. 12 weakness is as good as ever, especially when some things like Gastrodon can't normally be status better. Blizzard is great for the grass types and the ground type. Being a psychic type means Palossand can't use psychics on you either, and Gastrodon can't use Ice Beam or Blizzard on you. Like on paper, it feels like all the things that made this season regularly strong, like Zapdos being a little better, the grass types and ground types rising. I feel like we should more to the point where it should have been one of the best Pokemon offensive.
Okay.
That's
so
what I would have said. I would have said that I'm surprised it wasn't on almost every team.
The thing is, Jinx fits on a very specific team style, which is leaning towards offense when most people were building defense. And I think that's the thing. Jinx is on offensive teams. And also, Jinx was used a lot as a lead, which is what it's usually used as, right? But in this specific case, I think late game Jinx was unexplored and should have been explored at some point.
100% agree. That actually it's weird, but like, yeah, like I didn't like the idea of like we, because it either meant a coin flip with Salzbuck against like Starmie and Zam. It's good as ever. Talk about those guys later. And then with like Raichu, it's weird. Like it hits Raichu really hard with Blizzard. But I also feel like it kind of hates when Raichu paralyzes it. So like I think mid or late game Jinx, I think I'm with you on that, Satina. I think that probably would have been the better case. And I think if people realized that instead of just using Jinx how it's supposed to, it probably could have been like a much higher Pokemon.
Yeah, it would have been much higher. I think it's about like it should have been around the 8th to 9th best for a reason. Probably 8th to 8th feels like the right place for Jinx on the overall tier list. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to experiment with Jinx because I was experimenting with other guys. I was building for other months, and unfortunately, Jinx didn't fit. I needed other stuff. And I wanted to use late game Jinx, but unfortunately the tournament was over at that point. I didn't get to use a late game Jinx team, sadly.
Yeah, that's the biggest shame with Generation Jump. Like, even though like every time, like we always just inevitably have like tournaments slowing down, it's still you still kind of suffer from just not having enough time to fully explore every Pokemon, and it's ironically I feel like Jinx is probably used more and show more success than Variable. I don't know, this might just be bias on my end, but I definitely think Jinx. if we ever did a rerun of season 3, I think Pokemon like Jinx, Kingler, and maybe I don't know, Gyarados and Articuno would probably see a lot more play. But that's just me. But I'm fine with
Uh,
A2, I think.
A2 is fine. I think that's the top of the list of A2. I think it's better than A2 at what it does.
I'd say yeah. Jinx in this season feels a lot like Moltres was in season 1. Right towards the end of the season, people kind of go, "Oh, if we just used that, that would have been really good if we used it in this certain way," because Moltres in season 1 just had this weird. It was had a good matchup against Metagross and Great Tusk and Sceptile. It was just had the right thing, but it came right at the end of the season, which was unfortunate. But I think Jinx, mid to late game Jinx, might be the same thing. Where, quite frankly, I think it is a really solidly strong option. It's just you had Vanillux and you had Alolan Raichu, so that's your Ice and Psychic type.
Yeah. I mean, since we are speaking of Vanillux, do we want to talk about the ice cream?
Yeah, actually, so there's 4 Pokemon that I'm just gonna put them in the tier list now. This is gonna be my call, but Vanillux, Gengar, Oyster, and Alakazam, I'm gonna claim that all 4 of these guys are probably gonna end up being one tier, because I don't really know how to explain it, but all 4 feel like that, at least for starting with Gengar and Alakazam, they feel like the generic good stuff you already know from Gen 1, but also not super meta defining. Maybe Cloyster wouldn't fit that, but a vanilla stuff he would. Where it's really, really good, but not to the point where it's everything's being defined around it, but also not the grass types where you kind of forget about them sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely put Vanillux. Vanillux, I'd prefer to use Jinx over Vanillux, but I would prefer to use Vanillux over Articuno. Example.
Yeah.
So I would, in terms of that, I would definitely put B1. It's an exploder. Just to rattle it off, it's an exploder. It's got a strong blizzard. It's got has it got reflect and light screen?
It has acid armor.
Acid armor.
Yeah,
Yeah, acid
and also on top of that, you also have the Hyper Beam set, which is a very good tech option. The one we dubbed Hyper Cream for full offense.
Even with
Hyper Cream,
it's surprisingly tanky.
Yeah, it doesn't need acid armor to tank. Acid armor helps it taking explosions, which sometimes people want to explode on it. But the thing with Vanillux, it's very flexible in how it's used. It's either a defensive mon or an offensive threat, and you don't know which set you have on you, and you don't know which kind of defensive set you have. Because there is the freeze def and the special def set. And then you have the full-on offense set, which is just good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Vanillux is just a really solid all-around Pokemon. Not something that you're gonna go, oh, I wish I didn't bring Vanillux this match. But you could bring better things than Vanillux, like Jinx, for example.
Yeah, I think that's different. I think you want various reasons to use Vanillux over Jinx. There is an argument made, but it's team reliant. Again, it's all you build. Yeah,
they are very different Pokemon in terms of how you want to use them. Yeah.
Unless you ground back and you use Vanillux lead, which would be one of the best figure around for ground back.
Look, not everyone can be the visionary that Generation Jumble needs. Least of all, you guys who think mid-game Vanillux is good, not weak game Vanillux, theoretically doing something cool. I will say that Vanillux, I definitely think Vanillux was probably the fan favorite season.
Probably was because it's the least annoying mon out of the format.
Yeah, I would say so. And I know Convict really liked it. You really liked it. And also, just in general, it's because it's fun with having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one that fits the theme the most, I'd say, and it's also the one that looks the cutest out of all of them. definitely. I know there is going to be arguments that Online Rage with Kyoto. I personally think Vanillax is winning the cuteness scale.
I don't know. Starbucks looking there.
I said of the new guys. Snorlax is always the
There's always a new
cutest.
Starbucks set. There's always something new you can do. He counts as new. You just gotta get creative.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly.
I mean-
Since we spoke about them way too much without actually ranking them, where do we want to put Gastrodon and Palosand?
I'm thinking.
I was just about to say the same thing. We haven't got to it yet.
Because I feel like we need to get everything else sorted out, so we can also determine who is even big three in the first place. Like, I'm gonna get some of the other like Western ones out of the way. Not that like Gengar
Okay.
Well,
and
if you-
Alakazam are really Western, but like, did anyone really have like these guys like on your mind? You know, like for
Yes, I had Alakazam on my mind a lot because it's actually quite strong and you need to be prepared for it, even if they don't bring it. I think Alakazam is either Zapdos T or ST, and it didn't drop that much. I think Alakazam is still good old Alakazam, it just wasn't used enough.
yeah.
And people
I-
need to remember Alakazam.
Yeah, I'd say Alakazam is probably in Zapdos tier just for the pure reason that it's an Alakazam. It does Alakazam things, and nothing that we've added really stopped that because it's Alakazam. What are you gonna What are you gonna do?
Okay,
It
that's
didn't
pretty
like facing Alolan Raichu. It didn't like facing Alolan Raichu very much, but it didn't really change much other than that. You don't like Exeggutor, but you love going against something like a Tauros. It's fine. So it's
okay. I'll
it didn't
concede for
change much.
Alakazam. It definitely was better than Giving before. But I'm not really going to say the same for Gengar. Even if
No.
the
Oh,
users
yeah.
weren't like even if like they weren't just like getting tankier by the minute, making Gengar not hit as hard. They're ground type. Gastrodon was using Earthquake for a time, but without it, it was probably fine against Gengar. And then Palosane just straight up just beats Gengar 1v1. Like,
Yeah.
I
So
think
unless you have a Gengar that's out for blood and you're eating heavy hypnosis, Gengar God definitely was. But we saw the rise of something very funny, which is Gengar Palosan Core of Double Ghost. Just like in season 2, Double Ghost got popular
but that's
towards
kind
the
of been
end.
every season so far. You had Gengar and his Sweet Fireworks sometimes. You had Gengar and Annihilate. Like in general, like people love using Double Ghost. It makes sense.
Yeah,
It definitely does.
it makes sense. And Gengar has a lot of cool defensive utility as well. So with its switching, definitely with also Razor Leaf user, thinking about Victory Bell and Venusaur and Ludicolo, where it just outruns them.
I
So
was gonna
like,
say that was Gengar's value. Is the value it had against the grass types specifically. Eating Razor Leafs, being immune to their normal type moves. Swordsbuck doesn't do anything to Gengar. It paralyzes it, but what are you gonna do? Miss your jump kick and die? I don't know. So Gengar had really niche defensive viability. There were some matches where you could sit there and be like, I'm really glad that I brought Gengar this match. Otherwise, Swordsbuck would have just steamrolled my team. Um, Even against Bulu, you just block out hyper beams. Sure, you don't like Nature's Madness, but other than that, you just put it to sleep. But it didn't do much offensively. Really, it was helpful to pivot, but it didn't do much offensively. Really,
I mean, it exploded.
That's true. They go boom.
yeah, it did go boom. I'd say it doesn't have as much value as it did in season 2. I really liked it in season 2. It was full
Yeah,
on
it did, but yeah, no, it's a case of it got worse. The meta got way too hard to handle for it, and like, yeah, too much reliable recovery is what. But it's very good at exploding on the Amnesia user. That's not
Oh, yeah.
Palosand.
I think B1
Yes,
is pretty good for it.
I'm okay with B1.
Oh, no, our other two consoles
Maybe
said
B2.
A2, so I think So
Oh,
I think
A2.
B1 is good enough. It's not A2 to me,
Yeah.
but just know that that's what the other two are thinking. So there is an argument to want to rate it higher. One thing I think is A2 and should be next to Jinx is Cloister.
Yeah, Cloister depth, like, just like we said about Victory Bell, like, the meta becoming slower just naturally just better for Cloister. Cloister being able to clamp block things is very good. What's even better is that one of the best Amnesia users is a ground type, so Cloister's Blizzard just comes alive. It's very physically tanky, which makes it better against some of the other attackers. And with Psychic types not being, like, obviously they're still good, and using with one on your, but with it not being as, like, omnipresent, it definitely makes Cloister just, makes his life just a little bit easier. And
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly.
consistent as usual.
Yeah, and I think as a defensive core, I think something like Alisand, Cloister, and Gengar actually comes off as a really nice little defensive core that you can use. Throw Gastrodon in there as well if you want to, but they, when I just think about it quickly in my head, it seems to work out quite nicely for all three of them. But I didn't get to see Cloister too much because I was out pretty early this season. I when you put it down on paper like that, I think Cloister it explodes.
Yeah, it has Explosion too, which is a very great way to just have a trait that benefits you. Like having Explosion, Blizzard, Clamp is just great, and having Rest so that it sticks around for the long game, which is a thing that all of the top tier have in common, which is they can stick around for a bit.
Yeah. And you kind of eat Gastrodon pretty well. Earthquake doesn't do anything. Ice Beam doesn't do anything, even with Amnesia's up.
And
Surf,
Surf doesn't do anything too. Like no, Cloister just clamps lock them alive. Like
it's I'd say it's like Jinx. It's that really solid kind of mid game ish. Everything else is slower. It's just good.
yeah,
For standing right now, Raw would put one, because a lot of these just
Yeah.
have like a tier that just don't use. So let's see here. Let's see what's still worth. But we got Lapras,
Can we
Dragonite. By obligation, we need
Gyarados,
Volbeat. Rhydon, Golem, Cobra. Kind of
Starmie?
Oh, actually, no, what's Starmie? That's a big one. Let's talk about Starmie. Okay, so Starmie.
Yes,
Starmie.
Like, there's this thing that Starmie does in every single, where it just crits Blizzard, and that does very well. And against Gastrodon, it's kind of weird and kind of tense, but like, it had the longevity with Recover to actually beat Gastrodon. You know, with enough amnesia, Surf hits really, really hard. That's something.
yeah, it works both the Amnesia user very well, and unless some bad luck happen on the other side, you can pistol both of them, which is amazing. And you can crit through them with like Surf. The Amnesia user made Surf as a stab an actual viable option, which is kind of crazy to think about for Starmie, because it usually uses only Psychic.
So
But Blizzard was great. Thunderbolt wasn't used because Thunderbolt was kind of bad this time around.
I mean,
But yeah.
other than when he came across other Starmie, but and the occasional Lapras.
yeah, that's true. But it's weird though. Season 1 of Generation Jumble had like freaking like Zapdos and Regilucky everywhere. But despite that, I feel like Starmie had to work harder in Season 3.
Yeah, it had to work harder for a slot because guess what? There was a new Psychic Electric type around that was going around and making his day harder. But it has great defensive utility, and I think for me, Starmie is the fourth Pokemon this meta. It's the fourth. It cemented this as the fourth. It wasn't used, and like it has all the quality of the fourth one. Where it's like you can put it on every team and have it be good, or try to great. But it's kind of boring, and it always does the same thing, even if it has a little bit of variety. But it's Starmie at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it does
it
the same
is.
thing.
It's a glue. It does Starmie things. Starmie does what Starmie does. But that goes to show how actually quite well built a lot of RBYOU Pokemon are. We can throw all of this crap at them in over the course of 3 seasons. And Pokemon like Starmie, Tauros, Alakazam, Zapdos, still somehow they're upper echelon Pokemon. They're just built really well. And Starmie is no different. It's got Recover, it's got quite a flexible move pool. It can paralyze, it can use the screens, which definitely helps sometimes. It's got Surf, Blizzard, Psychic, Thunderbolt if you're worried about the whole Lapras, Gyarados, other Starmie thing, but like it's solid. I can't see Starmie dropping off much, even well, maybe next season just because of the power level, but
I mean, not really. We're not doing event takeover anymore,
Yeah, like,
so you know.
like we don't know a lot about like yeah, we have a roster plan, but like we still need something finalized. Grim. And I think the next Pokemon that
Oh,
I'm
that's
definitely
right.
convinced will be there is Delphox. And I feel like it's gonna be funny, but I think it's gonna be yet another season where Starmie becomes relevant. I feel like Surf Starmie is like the only lead that can actually kind of take on Delphox.
It is, yeah,
Yeah,
which is very fun.
I forgot we were doing the that slipped my mind that we were doing Halloween. Yeah, no, Starmie's going to be good next season. There we are, 4 seasons in a row. Starmie's going to be S tier.
You know what? Even for like Hoenn Takeover, when we eventually have that, it's probably gonna be fine because like Blizzard against like Groudon Rayquaza is, I don't know, like better than nothing. I guess. I guess Starmie might
It's
be
pretty
Yeah,
good, yeah.
Yeah, you can Thunderbolt Kyogre.
that too.
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, Starmie is always gonna be fine. If Regieleki and Sceptile didn't kill its viability, uh, the only thing that will is if like for like Gen 10 they like make like a Qian Pal, but for Starmie. Like you know how like they made Mega Weavile basically? And they just make a really, really big Starfish for Gen 10. Had an ability where it's like you gain it's like a combination of like download and like something. I don't know.
I mean, with Legend CA coming around, Mega Starmie could actually be something to exist in the near future.
Uh, just as the last point on Legends EA before we move on from Starmie, they have to put Mega Milotic and Flygon in this game, right? Surely they've come up with designs for them, right?
They better. And if not, like I don't even know. Like
You watch. We're gonna get Mega Victory Bell. Just you watch.
we're gonna get Mega Victory
Oh
Bell,
my
and then
God.
it's gonna be like the most awkward like video to make. Like, do I use rap for the replays or?
Oh yeah, do I use Rap? Do I use Sleep Powder? I haven't not a win button for the 1v1s every time, but like it's a boring and uninteresting. I don't want to do that.
All right, so
Oh,
I kind of want to get the rock types out of the
can
way. Is there much to say
Yeah,
about?
I was gonna
the biggest fall off. Rhydon is the biggest fall off of Generation Jumble. Like, period.
I'd put it in the joke tier.
I
It's a
wouldn't go that
joke
far.
when it has one niche and it's strong earthquake goober. Fun fact, I'd put Golem higher than Rhydon because Golem can go boom.
Actually, like I think I'll
So
put both of them like
I
better
think
than Tapu Fini. Rhydon
I think
obviously just has
Golem is
good stats.
outright.
It's very hard, and Golem has explosion. Is faster.
Yeah, the speed tip doesn't matter, but I think having explosion makes it D plus, and like Rhydon is Rhydon, but like when you have Palosand, which Rhydon is mainly used for its defensive utility against Zapdos, on top of having a nice flavored Earthquake. But when your Earthquake doesn't hit that hard because you have the entire meta built around taking on ground types, and also the fact that Palosand replaced you defensively,
Yeah.
Rhydon just didn't cook. Rhydon was bad. And like
Uh,
with Tapu Koko, being able to kill it with Viability was like a big nail in the coffin of all the trouble that Raynon had to deal with already.
To be fair though, that was like under the assumption that he got hit with 2 Nature's Madness, and even with Reflect, I don't think Tapu Koko would actually survive those. Like if Tapu Koko was in the format still, it would still be inferior to Palisand, actually recover off damage, but like it would have been a little bit better. But ever so
Yeah,
slightly.
the thing is, Tapu Koko meta is the switch meta, and having to switching right on that much is like very easily done and feasible. So that's the main issue.
So I think this one like we can get out of the way pretty quickly as well. I'm pretty sure Lapras just goes in the same tier as Articuno. Not much else to say about it.
Yeah, it's good. It can 1v1 everything.
Yeah,
It's
pretty much.
Lapras.
I
Like,
personally, I would put Lapras maybe even above Ludicolo.
I,
It's such a pain in the ass Pokemon to fight. When you see Lapras on the opponent's side of the field, you know full well this is going to be a pain in the ass.
I
It
mean, it
is.
depends on your team, but yeah, it is.
It it is a pain in the ass Pokemon. It's got Thunderbolt. It's got Blizzbolt. It's immune to freeze, which is really nice.
Rest is good on it,
Yeah.
and even
The only
Body
thing
Slam does enough damage. Dancy can't just be careless against it.
Yeah, crits.
Yeah, you could sing if you really wanted to. If Chansey could pull it off, Lapras can pull it off, and yeah, it kind of it did that thing where it ate hits from Gastrodon and Palisand. Neither of them really kind of enjoyed facing off against Lapras, but
Yeah, all of them were
overall,
just like kind of scared.
yeah, classic UUBL. I don't think it would be OU proper, but it's good. Lapras
Definitely
always
good.
finds a way to prove solid.
You guys want to take care of the
Solrock and
last few
Lunatone?
amnesia users? Because there's one
Yeah,
that we
let's.
should be
Oh
talking
yeah,
about, and one maybe we kind of do. We got Polyrath and we got Slowbro. Which one do you think is more interesting?
Poliwrath is more interesting by default because
yeah.
Slowbro is the same guy. Poliwrath is like interesting that it's faster than all the other amnesia users, and it has hypnosis,
That
which is a
I
thing. Which is a thing Peloton also does, by the way, and it's been very good at it. And yeah, Poliwrath has the ability to 1v1 a lot, take out a lot. It has submission if it wants to do that, which is not very good, but it exists, and I want to remind that it's there. It has options to be a mixed attacker too, like the other Amnesia user, which is very fun. But Surf, Blizzard, good coverage. It's great. Like, it's great. The fighting type is what's debilitating here, but it's a great Pokemon that has a great niche.
For those who don't know,
60% of the time.
my first time really ever playing RBY OU was actually with Amnesia, Hypnosis, Blizzard, Submission, Polyrath.
Yeah, and Cyber used it against me in one of our match, which was very tense at that point. And me and Cyber are two of the better player with ground back. Like, so we faced off very early in the bracket, so like Cyber got eliminated quite quickly, sadly. But I think that the usage of Poliwrath that he got was interesting because Poliwrath felt very strong, like actually just very strong.
That probably would.
I say it's a C2, so I'm gonna lay it off and leave you guys to talk about it.
I feel like I don't know. Probably my gut is. At the same time, there's like 101 reasons why I would use it over Slowbro. So I think it's
Yeah,
I
fine
see.
at the end of the day.
This is where I'm gonna throw fists. I'm gonna throw hands about this. I think, right? I know I say I know I say this every season and it bites me in the ass. I think Slowbro is actually pretty good.
It is. It's just what's at the other amnesia user, like Polygraph.
Yeah,
Is it,
I-
they have the same issue. So,
I think objectively, if you put them all in a battle royale between Gastrodon, Palisand, Slowbro, and Poliwrath, I think Slowbro would come out on top in a 1v1.
I mean, that all depends
I-
on like who targets who. Like, you can use Slowbro if you want.
I mean,
but if me, Sotina, and
Right,
Seth
here's-
AJ all gang up on you first.
well, yes.
Yeah,
if
so
you're, hang on.
the thing is, Polygraph has the hypnosis as a way to just bypass it, and like the other person is of course guaranteed to lose, but that's what happens when you have a ground type versus a water type.
Yeah, like
Usually
like,
the ground type loses.
Of course, Zach. Of course, if you're doing a battle royale
Mhm.
and you have or if like Palisand against 3 fucking water types, like, you know what? Maybe Palisand might not win that.
Yeah,
No,
and
but I'm gonna say this is gonna be my argument for Slowbro, right? Is that when you think about it, it's water type, much like Gastrodon, and that means you resist the water type moves. You resist psychic. You're strong enough defensively that you shrug off the earthquakes. You have amnesia, which is really good. You have rest as an option. You don't need I honestly think Surf, Ice Beam, Psychic, Amnesia would have been alright. Sure, you'd need rest in there somewhere, and you could probably get rid of Psychic for that, but I think Slowbro was underrated. I think it was underutilized. And I know that if I used it, I would have been crit Thunderbolt on the first turn every single time and I'd die. But
You're a loser.
I don't want my track record with Slowbro throwing my matches.
okay. No, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest. I agree with you. Slowbro was underutilized. It's great. Convex used it in the losers final. It did good stuff. I think there. No, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened. I'm gonna be honest. But Slowbro is decent. That's what it is. Decent.
In a vacuum, I will say Slowbro, I think, is the most consistent count, both Gastrodon and Palisand, because like it has
The thing-
that's a move pool for both. Because
Yeah, exactly.
What move Gastrodon's using? Ice Beam, Surf, Earthquake, all 3 Slowbro shrugs off very easily, and it shrugs off Palisand's attacks even better because it resists Psychic, and Palisand's physical attack isn't that great anyways. While Slowbro's physical bulk is just fantastic. So against the other 2 Amnesia, it's just wonderful. It's just not for the rest of the map.
And
It just isn't as
yeah,
tanky as them. It doesn't have this variable recovery, which just makes it easy those amnesias. But against other amnesia users, like it does just win 1v1.
Slowbro and Polygraph have just the anti-amnesia, from what I've seen personally. So
Yeah,
they're good. And like Slowbro drops to UU still in my eyes. For all logs, that's another question. But it drops to UU. It's C1. It's probably the best mon in C1. And likely the best one of all. But it's slow because it's Slowbro. And because it got worse. And in standard RBY, it's already on the fence of being of dropping, right? So if it drops you on and Victreebel as those Pokemon that are almost dropping down a tier. Because their viability fluctuates like that.
I could definitely see. You have under you. Gyarados was. I'm just gonna assume. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? C2?
Yeah, it feels about right. It doesn't. Water Flame was actually pretty good defensive outside of the electric stuff. But it was a nice. It was good, very good at wall breaking. It was very good at wall breaking both Palossand and Gastrodon too, which is like a very big attribute to have in that kind of meta.
Yeah, because the good thing about Gyarados, and I'd put Dragonite and Gyarados almost side by side. The good thing about both of them is that they have really good coverage. this meta. They both have surprisingly good typings for this meta. I know Dragonite doesn't like the ice type moves very much, and Dragonite doesn't like the electric type moves very much. But I did some exploring with them, and I think I remember using towards the end Gyarados and Dragonite a lot more in a defensive core kind of way, finding the right opportunities to fire off their powerful coverage moves. But I don't know, they don't like facing the Amnesia Pokemon, and there's, like I said, the Bolt Beam is a really common coverage combination.
I think Dragonite is still way better than Gyarados in my eyes, you know. I think Dragon Flying is better defensively and offensive, and its offensive move pool is better overall, and its stats are more geared towards that.
Yeah, I would say Dragonite is better. You do also have the agility, Wrap, Thunder Wave, shenanigans if you really wanted to.
Yeah, so Dragonite has an option. I think Dragonite to me is C1. Same for Hypno.
Yeah, I just had to put Hypno there. Second, Thea's already kind of mentioned it way earlier in the beginning of the video. So I don't think there's much to talk about, but like, I just saw in the tier list you guys were talking about that, and I'm like, yeah, as usual, Hypno kind of B tier or C2 Pokemon.
Yeah, okay, actually, you're right. It's a C2. Yeah, pretty much.
I'd be happy with that. Yeah. That puts respect on Hypno's name, and I know Cyber is screaming right now, don't use Hypno!
Wait, Zach, did you say
I won't.
did
Hypno.
you say that made you happy? Sorry about that.
Well, you're going to get beans on toast delivered to your house within the next week. That's
Okay,
Tornado warning.
Sheesh,
From
you
now.
have to make a political man.
Okay,
Yeah,
someone that we need got worse that we need to talk about. The Tauros clones, all of them got way worse because Sourcebuck was here. Persian, Dodrio, Kangaskhan, they got worse.
Yeah, like which D tier are we looking?
D plus. They're not type affinity. I'm sorry, but they got way worse. All of them due to the change, due to the meta shift.
Well,
Usually they'd be like C1, C2.
What's it called? Should we put Sandslash in D plus as well? Because like it was already.
Yeah, it's
an RBY.
It's a good Swords Dance user, so it's D plus. Sandslash just didn't change.
Yeah, it didn't change.
It's just Sandslash.
The meta got a little bit more wet.
Shall we, while we're down in these lower tiers, shall we, for the 4 newer Pokemon that we haven't covered yet, the Luna Duo?
Yes,
like,
I've been waiting to talk
should
about
we
them.
put
or I know
because
I'm waiting to talk about them, but I'm sure Sotina is even more enthusiastic.
Oh yeah, because I have a lot to talk about, and both of them are very different in how bad they are. Because they are very, very bad. Lunatone. I'm gonna talk about the better one. I thought the opposite at first because I was a sweet innocent child, and I was like, probably the thing that has speed taste cluster and has fire spin is probably better, but no, it's not. But Lunatone has hypnosis, which is good. The issue is both of them is speed taste cluster. The speed stat of 70 is what fucks them over so badly. Like, if they were... Because what they try... The stats are way too well balanced, and the Earthquake weakness has just been so bad for them. Lunatone being the one geared towards special defense, it's like, they really wish they had Levitate, basically. It's at that point. It's like, if they were to have Levitate, they might have been good. Like, surely better. And like, Explosion, Hypnosis, Ice Beam, and Psychic is good. Like, it's weird and it's funky. But Lunatone has actually good usage. Like, Lunatone actually does things when it's there, because Hypnosis has actual impact on the game. It's weird because it's bad as both a lead and as a Pokemon in the back. Like, it's not good at doing both of those things, and the problem is that the stats are too well rounded for the typing. Versus is still normal, is nice and stuff. Resisting flying is very nice. But they get to tap by your Zapdos crits. Both of them. Like, and other than Raichu isn't much kinder either. Like, both of them just get royally destroyed, which is a thing we didn't expect at first, because, like, the stats look actually okay from afar, but that's the thing. The context of the typing and stat together with crits and amounts that they want to insert defensively. Yeah, no, not really. So, my final conclusion is that Lunatone is C2, because that's just how good Sleep is, but Solrock is DT. It's that bad. It's right on team.
So I will say I'm on the same wavelength that Lunatone, in my opinion, is objectively better than Solrock in this meta. Psychic Ice Beam, Explosion, Hypnosis. It's actually a really good move set, along with that normal resistance, like you said, and a psychic resistance for both of them as well. That's really good. But they didn't do much else. They've got no way to patch up their speed, they've got no way to patch up their damage, they've got no way to patch up their defenses, and their stats are both incredibly middling, which is a shame. But Solrock just underperformed. The only claim that it had was a slightly stronger boom and fire spin.
Yeah.
Rock Slide's a bad move. It's got a weaker psychic. There wasn't really much point to use it. I think Lunatone was solid enough to be a C2 and Solrock being a D tier.
Yeah, the thing is, I used both of them, and I used them against Convex in those final, so I have experience with them in important matches. And like Lunatone felt okay, but Solrock was very underwhelming. Like, it had to explode so fast because it was compromised defensively so quickly. Like I tried so. It's two of Pokemon that I tried very hard to make work, but I just couldn't because of their inherent flaws. And when they work, they're cool. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I love them, but yeah, they didn't perform how we want them to. Which leads us to the what do we want to do next?
I mean, like, we're talking about
Volbeat.
underperforming, so there's two Pokemon we can go over, and we can go over two of the opposite of underperforming. And then after that, the rest, like, and you crap that we don't need to talk about. But, like, if we're talking about underperforming, yeah.
Volbeat, yeah.
Volbeat didn't underperform at all. I had
okay.
faith in Volbeat.
No, Volbeat overperformed by technicality, yeah, like that is saying.
That is so true, because at one point it got a freeze with Ice Punch. That is
and
true.
It won a game.
Wait.
And it got played.
That's insane.
Yeah.
S plus big three, right? So, yeah, no, it just isn't very good.
Volbeat won me a game, but it also lost me one because I brought it in the winners final round 3, which started the Descent to Madness. But Volbeat overperformed in that match too. I'm gonna be honest, Volbeat was actually okay to use. It feels better to use, but it's a Jokemon. Tailglow isn't that good due to the special move work in later gen. Sadly, it had way too low power move, and it crits so often. It's insane. It feels awful to have to crit that much.
Okay,
the one thing that's holding Volbeat back.
Like,
say something.
Yeah. So, like, see this here? See how it says the last joke Pokemon? The reason why
I see
named it here that is because in the future, inevitably, you're going to have some losers, such as Solrock and Kabufini. But no longer are we going to add Pokemon just for as a complete joke. We had that with, like, Toxapex in Season 2. Season 1 didn't really have any, but there's so many Pokemon there that some things got forgotten. We're not going to waste slots for joke Pokemon anymore, because Generation Jumble is already so competitive, and there's just not enough time to explore everything. We're not going to... Some things like, let's say Solrock and Finny will still be really bad, but everything needs something to offer with always some chance. We're not going to add a Pokemon with stats this bad anymore. The only exception you will see
with no moves, yeah.
Starter like Pikachu and Eevee, but even then, those have like actual like good moves they can use.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fine. No,
Yeah.
go and let the camera up. Go ahead, I dare you.
Okay, so
Uh,
when you switch your camera up, then it gets crit by Blizzard. It's just really bad. What do you think, Zach?
I think when you switch in a camera up and it gets crit by Blizzard, it's really bad. It, like jokes aside, fire not resisting ice hurts a lot. Water actually being some reasonably common coverage or just stab is not very good for it at all. It's an amnesia user. We forgot to talk about it back then. It's an amnesia user. But it doesn't do much with it because water hurts and ground hurts, and it doesn't resist normal or flying. Like
It-
Camerupt
it-
can be strong because the meta is slower, but Camerupt is slower than a lot of things anyway. But it unfortunately didn't quite succeed in certain ways.
It had to be built around a lot, is where we're going to get at. But Cameron was actually pretty good, all things considered. Pretty good for a loyalty standard. By the way, it's a low T. I think Cameron is not really good at being an amnesia user. Like, it doesn't have enough opportunities to set up amnesias. But the nice thing with it is that, you know, amnesia and fire blast is pretty strong. That means you can survive for a while. You're fast and you're pretty fast, which means, you know, just pretty fast for the slow mounts, because the best speed is like just one of the fastest amnesia user, and you have explosion, which allows you to trade with every other amnesia user except Palosand, but it doesn't matter since you two-shot Palosand, and Palosand two-shots you back. So since you're faster, you always win the Palosands 1v1.
See, there you are. See, this is a case where you can have a reasonably bad-ish Pokemon. I'd say it's a high value, high risk, or okay value Pokemon.
Yeah,
It can
it's
do
a,
stuff
it's,
for you, but
I
like
think we all
I'd rather you nice.
I love Camerupt personally. I think it's a D T, it's a D plus T because it's one of those very. It's like it can pop off, and it definitely did pop off. Like in that match in the winners final, it had its time to shine.
I don't
For
know.
example,
My camera certainly did not pop off during.
I mean, switching it Camerupt on Vanilluxe was probably a bad idea.
Well, in my defense, I thought you were gonna not use a move super effective against Camerupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So know that yeah, everything else is a low tier, and not worth talking about. That actual didn't change. Nothing changed much or enough for us to talk about it. Not it was not used at all. We
Okay.
can we put Vidri in the last joke Pokemon tier because it was used against you. It almost won.
Wait, what are we putting in the last joke tier?
Beedrill because it almost won against you.
I
Yeah,
don't
let's do
think
it for
so, but that's
Shelly.
only
Let's do
because,
something nice
like,
for Shelly.
I
Yeah.
can't explain it, but I have a very strong feeling I will see Beedrill again. So I don't think he's the last joke Pokemon. I think I'm gonna keep popping up.
It's not a
Yeah.
strong feeling. It's not a strong feeling. It is a guaranteed feeling because it gets to that point where I get a message from Shelly saying, "Can you build me a Beedrill team?"
Oh
And
god, no! Joey, if you're watching this
and I
right
did.
now, you should like. Joey, you should like
No,
give your stepdad a hug. He would really appreciate
no, I don't think Shelly needs to change. Shelly needs to bring Beedrill every single time, and whenever there's Sceptile, to bring Sceptile. It's predictable. It's comforting, seeing that Beedrill
Yeah.
on. Yeah, you know that there's always going to be a Beedrill. But yeah, no, it's not very good. I wouldn't even say it's a joke Pokemon, but it's better. I'd say it's better than both.
it. It's
But
not.
I mean,
It's
everything else.
not even a joke Pokemon. It's the reason Grand Finals wasn't Shelly versus Zotina.
Yeah. Which is very funny because it almost was.
Yeah. The only reason you won was because there was a Beedrill. Anything else?
I mean,
Oh,
also,
fair,
but
to be
also
fair,
the Beedrill
Joey,
got
you have to defend
Beedrill
yourself.
did get critical hit fire yeah.
So like, I killed Beedrill with a critical body slam. So technically, it doesn't matter what he would have had. A critical body slam would have been pretty good no matter what. So like I'm just saying, I might have won either way, you know? Like we can't deny that I am more skilled than Shelly. And also I was beating him with just normal types in a Charizard. So like, if you think about it, that's just showing just how much more skilled I am than Shelly. And flexing against
you got cocky.
Started playing Showdown, it's definitely the right call. Shelly, you should like
Yeah.
yourself. You weren't playing Pokemon Showdown sooner.
Yeah, no, I think you got cocky, and that put you in a very tough position, and you should be thankful for the crit you got.
It definitely was
cocky
so
has
funny.
never screwed me over once.
Yeah.
Oh
Anyway.
my gosh! Wait, two different scenarios. One was a randomizer, or not like a random battle with somebody I had. I was playing against, I think it was Myrox, and at the end, I tried killing Myrox with a resistant move, my Ho-Oh, and I got killed. And then one of my old friends was like, "Brown, you need to stop like getting cocky. You keep losing games." And there was another time I was facing Myrox. It was a Gen 1 battle. I almost won, but instead of killing with Ricky Bow's Razor Weave, I went for Wrap, which didn't do enough damage. Myrox ended up winning. When Plausible saw the replay, he just said in all caps, "Brown, why would you do that?"
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
right.
Uh,
Should we?
all in all, I'm a great
We should
person.
move
You
on
be
to the
thankful
star
for
of the
being
show,
there.
yeah. Yeah, we should be thankful because you're the big man managing the big Pokemon thing. You're right.
Zach and Theus wouldn't give you a chance to come back like that.
No,
No, but also I can dismantle Zach and Tears in anything that's not Gen 4.
Oh yeah, that's
True.
the thing. Like, I guess Zach and Theus would kind of murder me in Gen 4. But also, like... Anyway, Palisand and Gastrodon. Those are both two very good Pokemon.
Yeah, some of the best Pokemon in this format, perhaps.
Now, this is gonna be the most controversial
these might be two of the
thing we're
most
gonna
consistent.
have. Deciding if which one of them is better than each other, and deciding if they're better than Storm. I personally think Gastrodon is better than... What do you guys think?
I think Parasand is better, personally.
It's
Zach?
tough because it's so tough because Alasand is better as just this defensive behemoth. It doesn't really provide much on the offensive front. Whereas Gastrodon, it's not that much far off defensively in terms of stats, but with that really big grass weakness, and you don't have the immunity to normal type moves, you are susceptible to things like crit hyper beam or self-destruct explosion strategies. But the trade-off is you do more damage. Your stab surf and ice beam for coverage, just you do more damage than Palisand does. So it depends. It's a pick your poison type of thing, and you don't even have to do that because most people run them both anyway.
For me, like,
Not really.
For me, the main two things with why I think Gastrodon is better is because, one, there's just more power points to cover, which, you know, always ends up, like, being relevant in Gen 1 matches. But also with Palisand, especially at the end, a lot of times Earthquake was cut for Psychic, and even when you didn't cut Earthquake, like, even though, like, Amnesia was really good, I personally always hated using Psychic. I so badly wish I could have any other real, like, coverage move. Because Psychic just felt very bad and felt very easy to take advantage of with the other Psychic types. So I feel like,
Yeah.
it's like one of the best Pokemon I have, I just can't justify being better than Gastrodon, since Gastrodon's amnesias are significantly more impactful with whatever move he chooses.
I guess so, but my main counterpoint is that if it having Gastrodon has two sets, Palossand has two sets. The thing is, Gastrodon second set is more of a joke set than anything. Okay, technically Gastrodon has three sets if you want to really be technical about it. While Palossand has two sets that play very differently. The one with Earthquake and the one with Just Psychic play very differently. Because the one with Just Psychic means it has Hypnosis. And it having Hypnosis could very drastically change the course of the game. Because Palossand has so many occasions to just click Hypnosis as a move and just kill what would be your answer, because let's be honest, if the Parasand answer is asleep, what's that with the Parasand? Not really a lot. And so it's that weird matchup of like Psychic has the special drops as well, which kind of ruins the defensive checks to Parasand that aren't Amnesia users. Which is basically only Gastrodon. There is only Gastrodon that can very much beat Parasand reliably outside of like Slowbro and Poliwrath. Because the thing is, the normal type immunity was actually so much variable and came in clutch so many times due to not being able to be exploded on, which was the main way to deal with Amnesia users throughout the entire season, but no one could do that. But Parasand has more weaknesses, notably the one to Blizzard is huge. Vanilluxe is very good. Vanilluxe is one of the best Pokemon that handle both of the Amnesia user. That's why it's that high. Stuff like that. Both of them can. I think both of them are the same, and they are interchangeable in placing because they play so similarly, and it's just a matter of taste. Who is better?
Yes.
At the end of the day.
I was about to say the same thing. Like the fact that Ground is a more offensively minded person, and then Satino, I'm sure you wouldn't mind the occasional stall fest every now and then. That you would prefer Palisand and Groundback would prefer Gastrodon, because that is your trade-off that you're having there, is that Palisand is probably one of the better defensive Pokemon that we've seen probably in the Jumble's history so far. It does have that weakness to... No, to be fair, it's only got 2 times weaknesses. It doesn't have any 4 times weaknesses like Gastrodon does. But electric immunity, normal immunity, and then your trade-off is you're weak to ice and water, whereas Gastrodon...
And grass.
And grass, but Gastrodon is 4 times weak to grass.
Yeah, but they both get caught by every Reversal Leaf user in the format, which makes it irrelevant which one has the biggest weakness.
It's just... Yeah, Palisand is better defensively, purely because they're ghost typing, and Gastrodon is better offensively because it had a better... It's better typing.
Stab, yeah. It has a stab move that it could use with the boost, is the main changing fact.
Okay,
Yeah,
so...
I think whatever way we put it, I would argue that Gastrodon might be a bit better than Palisand, but you can't... They're interchangeable for me. Should we see what the other two have said?
Cyber puts it as a big 3, and Plus thinks Palo is better.
Okay,
yeah,
so
they both say Palo is better.
here's what I'm thinking. Because, like, and now that, like, we talked about Gastrodon and Palisand, now that I'm looking back at Snorlax, I'm definitely now feeling like I'm leaning towards Snorlax should probably just go back to being one of the big 3. Wow, Gastrodon and Palisand, like, they should stick together.
Yeah, Gastrodon and Palisand should stick together. Yeah, they're respectively the 5th and 6th best Pokemon around to me. I think Stammy is better than both of them, and I'm gonna stick by that. That's my my fault, because I think we can all agree that Stammy is marginally better, and I don't think that the top of it. So there's a middle of S tier. So what separates Executor from Stammy? Basically,
I feel like just by usage, and I need to put them at the top of the tier. They were the main our season, and they were like the most exit Boros. That doesn't mean that necessarily that like they're better than Starmie or Executor. For the purposes of just showing off the tier list and showing who was like, you know, like who was like the most relevant, who was used, who was the strongest.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, no problem. It's just that I like to order it in order of who I think is the strongest. That's why I, put it like that.
I mean, the way that I look at it,
it's how strong they are, but it's also just like how relevant they were for the actual season itself.
Yeah, and the thing about Palo and Gastrodon is that, as a general consensus, Starmie hasn't had talk of being a big 3 threat. Whereas, at least at some point, both Palo and Gastrodon have.
For me, it was never the question. I never thought that we would actually talk about them being big three. Because to me, they were never even contested in the first place, where we couldn't even argue that. So to me, that was never a thing. But I remember, it was funny at first because we thought collectively that Palosen was a BT, which was so wrong of all of us.
I seriously regret not making a prediction video beforehand. But that's because it took forever for me to actually make the tier list.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
it
not
was
sure what I
made
would've
like
said.
not
I
long
really don't
before.
know. Like, I'm pretty sure I would have said I was worried that Gastron would have fallen off because of the types. But, like, best grass type doesn't even use a grass type move. So, like... Okay, so... Charizard, Blastoise, Beedrill, Boring Raichu, Nidoking, all of you. None of you are doing anything in this metagame. Like, Tentacruel, you might be sitting there menacingly, and you could probably beat Palisade one. But no, you guys, there's no point talking to you. Which means this is the
I mean, yeah, this is the end. But yeah, Tentacruel is niche, I guess, because it can beat both of the Amnesia user in a fight.
some of these are gonna be kind of, and like I'm pretty sure like
But-
what's it called? I'm pretty sure Scyther can beat. I don't know. Gotta be someone in this tier like Scyther can beat. Volbeat.
Yeah.
You know what? The thing is, I don't.
Or wait, can he even beat Volbeat? No, it probably can. It can probably kill
Mm.
Slash before Tail Glow, Ice Punch.
Thunder.
Nah, he'd miss.
True. That's true.
You know what?
But-
Fair enough.
I think that
I'm happy with
this
that's
tier
list.
list.
we're considering maybe checking the finalizing the season 4 roster, but I have not checked out how long this has been. I want to say
3 hours.
I want to say that my gut wants to say that, but every single time we do this, I'm done with the recording.
I've kept the timer. I've kept a timer. We've been about 3 hours. Yes, about 3 hours. We are closing in on 3 hours.
Season 3 for
Oh, yeah.
3 hours. Oh yeah.
So I think we have a little bit of time to chit chat about season 4 and it's guaranteed to be added. You know, just get names out there.
We can just get some of the names out of the way.
I will.
So like,
Yeah, I'll rattle off a couple that I think might be mandatory. Yeah. So Grimmsnarl is definitely coming. Thank God. Thank the heavens. Christ alive, the meme is dead. Grimmsnarl is got a video. Delphox, Mimikyu. Mimikyu has to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
I know what other thoughts on Cofagrigus, because I know it fits thematically, but it's not going to be very good.
It's not gonna be bad either. It's very good. It's a defensive mon at the end of the day.
yeah, like I'm not actually.
Yeah, I
sure
think-
I completely agree with it. Be fully thematic, because like a mummy costume, sure, but not like a sarcophagus. Who dresses up as a sarcophagus itself? Halloween.
I know, but we don't have a mummy Pokemon. There is the thing.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna correct you. Sarcophagus are very prominent Halloween decoration for houses.
Oh, okay, there we are. See, it's close enough
Yeah,
to me, and it's a ghost.
it's
Here's
yeah,
how
but
we actually do this. So like we have some like the mandatory thing, of like one representing like candies or sweets, one representing just monster, like witch representation, etc. And with that, I feel like the 5 that would like the represent core value. And so like when it comes to like candy and whatnot, like Hydrapple for like candy apple, Grimmsnarl for like just generic monster. You have like Delphox as like witch, as that's probably one of the most straightforward costumes you can get. Or just costume.
too bad for the bat.
And for the last one, I think Gliscor probably deserves a guaranteed like spot as like a combination of both just vampire or warlock or bat or whatever. Gliscor can be very
Mm.
versatile
Yeah,
when you want it to be.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy for Gliscor to get its redemption. If Annihilate can get its redemption, I'm happy with Gliscor to get its
Swoop
second
too.
chance.
I'm also okay with Swoop getting a guaranteed spot. And then after that, like everything else,
And
I think we have the community vote in.
okay,
Yeah,
well, okay. So I'm gonna correct the list of things that are banned. So Cacton isn't here. And do we want to have a guaranteed start for Gorgeist because Pumpkin?
Like I think Pause like mentioned it best. Like Gorgeist, we can just like add as a bonus because it already fits thematically, but also probably won't be strong enough to where it'll be like an actual like relevant force. So like it'll be kind of there by default, but like like not very like limit like
Okay,
devote
yep.
attention.
yeah.
Also, one I wanna mention Skelly Dodge. What do we want to give it a guaranteed spot or do we just leave it out?
I don't want like Skeleturge and Cacturn. I think should be like Pokemon that we have the community vote in.
Okay.
Like I
Well,
think we like eventually like have like the vote, have our reasoning. Like Skeleturge doesn't really sound like it would be a Halloween Pokemon, but due to like its lore and all that, it actually works really well as a Pokemon representing All Saints Day or November 1st. Ironically enough, so I feel like it does well enough.
okay, yeah, it does well enough. Well, that's it. There will be a community vote up on our Discord server for Generation Jumble if you want to participate to season 4, which if you watch up to there, thank you very much. It's very appreciated. So, if you want to participate, you can join the Discord to get your voting on who you'd like to see for the Halloween season. The vote won't last that long, so you have to kind of do it rather quickly. So be there in the next 3 to 4 days for the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Next
Thing.
three
they pretty
business
much
days.
said it like perfectly. Now you guys can like, I'll give you guys permission to like finalize the Pokemon voted in. You already know the ones I'm against, such as like let's say Galvantula or a Katarine or freaking Alcremie. I'm so not over why Alcremie was in the dock. How is Alcremie a Halloween like Pokemon?
I guess it's a sweet. It's a cake. It's a sweet cake.
Who goes trick or treating and gets cake? Don't get me wrong, I'd
No
prefer
one.
that, but I don't think it happens.
I think it's not even a cake. Gmax, it's a cake. Alcremie's just whipped cream. I can imagine a kid going trick or treating and someone squirting whipped cream into their little trick or treat bag.
Oh, that
That's
better not
actually
be
kind
the
of funny.
reasoning. It better not be the reasoning of just, oh yeah, you could trick people with Alcremie as like a cream prank. Like no, like at that point, like
That's funny.
at that point, I'd rather just get like
Okay.
Tentacruel saying that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna prank them by like inking all over their house or something, or execute as like egging. That's way more Halloweeny in theme.
It's true. Actually, that is kind of true. Um, I'm actually about ready to finish this off.
Me too. And we stay to the point for the most part. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, we had a classic
yay.
ramblings that always come, but you
That's
know,
true. Like
there is
another
one
thing
last
will
thing to
happen in the
do.
future. That's gonna be a
Yeah.
podcast. Tina and Zack and Theus will definitely be there, along with Claus and Cyber, all those guys. And I promise with that podcast, we're going to stay on point the entire time. And we won't say anything unhinged.
Yes, of course.
Don't forget all.
Okay,
yeah,
I think
are we
that moment
gonna?
of silence is long enough to know for them to know I'm lying. But thank you for being here. And like Satina said, definitely join the Discord server. If you made it this far, that either means that you're Plus, Satina, or Cyber DJ just rewatching this. And by the way, hi, Satina and Second Theus. I appreciate both of you. Or it means that
Yay!
ignore that call. I'm just allergic to being. But yeah, like if you made it this far, it either means that you are just already invested in Generation Jumble, or you're curious. And worst case scenario, you can always just join just to like listen in on the discussion, watch battles live, or you can just lurk while they bully me in the Generation Jumble chat, which for some reason, like bullying me is just very popular right now.
Also,
It's
if
always-
you watch you might still be interested in the Patreon, and we can thank our Patreons. Right, Groundback? You asked us to remind you this, so please.
It's right, Grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yes,
true.
great.
You were supposed to remind me of it. Okay, so special thanks to my Patreon supporter, Zach and Theus. And also, I guess,
Thank you.
I guess technically, like, Plus is like one of those like free members because you can technically join and not pay for anything. So, yeah,
I
thank
just went the
you.
extra mile.
You guys are pretty cool,
It's alright.
and you guys are cool too. Because even if like you're not paying, like just you watching this video means a lot to me. So that's about it. Thank you all for watching. This is Groundback, and until next time, I look forward to hearing from you.